Welcome to Crunch Time with Jeff, Booner, Lucas, Mike. We appreciate
Booner to join.
He will be here. Just like yesterday, he'll be a couple minutes late. But appreciate you guys for tuning in. Welcome to the show. Another packed one. We're going through Lions mock drafts.
Let's have a show, baby. Let's have a show.
Have a fucking Wednesday.
Yep. I'm fired up. I am for other reasons, but I'm fired up. I am, boys. I'm excited. Like I said, a packed show for you guys. We have Sean from Half Court joining to break down the Lions trade deadline as well, 9:30. So later in the show, we got a lot of Lions to get to, of course. If you're listening, leave a 5-star review. I know we're on most podcast platforms. And if you're watching on YouTube, thank you. I put the link in the chat as always and how you can become a Crunch member. But even if you're not a Crunch member, it's okay. We appreciate you for tuning in. Like the stream. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. It helps support the boys. And of course, if you do like, it helps push the stream out in the algorithm. But before we get started, how's everyone feeling tonight? It's Wednesday, February 7th.
Fired up, man. It's not a normal Wednesday show. The boys are gonna bring the heat today. I'm telling you guys all that right now. It's gonna be a fire show. Shout out to everyone tuning in.
I'll tell you what, Jeff. Gentry, I don't know if I told you guys know I run, and I haven't been able to run. I went to the doctors. I got this thing called runner's knee, and it has something to do with like my kneecap, and so I've been able to run. Got a good little 2-mile run in. Check my phone. Somebody decided to block me. Don't know who, but it was just like, oh, okay, we'll roll with that. I'm fired up. I'm fired the fuck up, boys. Just what we need.
Fucking go.
Yeah,
need more jet fuel.
Yeah. I'll say this. It is confusing. And people that don't know, Woodward blocked us all. I couldn't tell you why. I know people were commenting. Why? There isn't a reason why. We've been professional. I've been supporting all my friends still at the company. And all we wanted to do was make content together as friends. That's all. And obviously entertain the people. That's all this is about. But we got blocked. It is what it is. People got their feelings hurt, like LeBron said in that press conference. Must have got his feelings hurt, like Klay Thompson. Someone got their feelings hurt, and we were blocked. So we must be doing something right. I don't know. That's what I take away from it. It is what it is. That's in the past. We're only going forward in the future, and I'm excited for the future. I really am. I'm fired up. And to start us off here, before we get into more of the details, because I know Booner's, he was confused as well, and we'll get into it a little bit here because this is our show. This is our program. We can say whatever the hell we want. But before we get to that, the Lions did make a signing, guys, and this is more of a Lukas Klotz guy. And I know we say that about certain guys, but the Lions,
Ryan, by the way,
the line,
new member, baby,
Ryan Kincaid,
welcome
you're the man.
Let's fucking go.
And real quick, and we'll address this too, and I'll just give you a hint. It wasn't someone who runs the Twitter, so you can do that. You can take that on how you want to take that. It wasn't a someone who, we're not going to blame it on an employee. We're not going to do that. But the Lions did sign a wide receiver, Traquan Smith, a former Saints wide receiver when Dan Campbell, Aaron Glenn, when they were there. It was all right. It's not like a big splash signing, Lucas, but it's certainly depth. Certainly depth.
This was the Lukas Klotz guy when he was in New Orleans in his heyday, but honestly, this is a guy I don't see making the roster next year. If he does, I'm not going to be complaining, but he's just past his prime. Even his prime was like a wide receiver 3. When there was an injury, he was wide receiver 2. He'd step up on some games where they weren't really thinking about him. But I guess if they're talking about just veteran that really knows how to get it done, he's a very fundamentally sound wide receiver. But I don't see Traquan Smith being a difference maker next year. I don't. And that's not trying to be disrespectful. I'm just trying to be realistic about it. I think that's why it was kind of a quieter signing.
Yeah. I mean, he's never topped like 500 yards in his 6 seasons being in the NFL. The signing really doesn't move the needle by any means. Obviously, he's probably a Brad Holmes, Aaron Glenn type player if they want to bring him in, and who knows where it goes from there, but it doesn't move the needle. Maybe he's involved on special teams, something like that. I know he's a little bit of a bigger wide receiver, but I don't see much coming from the signing.
Yeah, it's a very, very insignificant signing. Like you kind of alluded to already. It's not like Traquan was super productive. This is more just a depth move. That's all it really is, guys. Like it doesn't take them out of trying to acquire wide receiver in the draft. It just, he was on the practice squad last year. So I want to say for the Broncos, because of course the Sean Payton, he was the coach of the Saints when he was there. I think he was on the Broncos in the practice squad. So this is just another.
This could be the big body X wide receiver that Lions fans all have been waiting for. You never know. That I think this is equivalent to the Marvin Jones signing of last year. I don't know why they signed him so early though. They didn't hesitate. But that was their guy. That was their guy heading into the offseason. That was the big splash signing.
Yeah, and it goes back to the same. And also, I saw some comments on that on the post there when they announced it. Whoever tweeted it out, and they're like, "He's ring chasing." I'm like, I don't even like it.
He might not even be on the roster. You can't say if he's ring chasing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you make the final roster, you'll get a ring. I guess it's funny that we're even here, but it is what it is. Again, we appreciate it. I know I see a lot of new faces in the chat as well, like Joey. He's joining too, so. Appreciate you, Joey, for that. For all the names here, Rake as well, Shift God, Coach Walk, Lions Troll. Bubba says Saints also blocked Dan Campbell on Twitter.
Yeah.
I can't confirm nor deny that. I don't know. Bond J, we got John Lord, of course, Devin, Anakin, everybody, man. ETN as always, Nicholas Earl. We appreciate Eduardo. We appreciate you guys for always supporting us. Like, seriously, I know we say that, but it's so true. Like, without the people and without their support, we love doing this as it is, but the fact that we get to entertain people, it makes this so much better. It does. It's a community. It truly is at this point.
Crunch time, baby. Yeah, we appreciate all you guys, especially it's like momentum. Like I'm talking about, like right when I got out of the gym, I was like, I cannot wait. Get on the stream with the boys, talk with the chat. I love the chat. Like you guys have me cracking up all night. You guys do have good points in the chat as well. Like it's not like we ignore you guys whatsoever. You guys are part of the show. And as we get bigger, we're definitely gonna remember everybody that's in it right now. So like the stream, share the stream, and just appreciate your support as always.
100%. Chat makes the show, man. Without the laughs and them contributing, it wouldn't even be the same. So appreciate you guys 100%.
I want to put up this mock draft, and when Booner joins, he can kind of share his thoughts when he gets here. But essentially, PFF did their own Lions mock draft, so we'll break that down and who they took. I think it's a 5-round mock draft, and then I think Sports Illustrated was the other platform that did a mock draft for the Lions. So we're going to be reviewing Lions mock drafts. We'll be doing our own starting the next coming week, maybe even this Monday. We're going to start doing PFF mock drafts, but I wanted to save it because we have all off season to do it, but we'll be breaking down mock drafts that are already done. So the first one I have here, and I'm going to go ahead and put it up, is PFF's five-round mock draft. So let me get this into you. Guys might be shocked with some of the guys they took too. But here we go. Okay. I got it here. All right. So in this, I'm going to be honest, I was surprised because both mock drafts have something in common that I don't think is very likely. Quinyon Mitchell, corner out of Toledo, goes to pick 30. That would mean that the Lions traded back one spot, wouldn't it?
Yeah, because they're 29. Yep. Which,
so
I mean, I'll take it if you trade back one
he's
spot.
Still there, yeah.
And this is, guys, remember when Brad Holmes, he started shredding all these mock drafts? Like, this is like what we're talking about. Quinyon Mitchell, I just don't see how he falls this late. I don't. I don't. And maybe that's just me buying into the media, but I think at the talent he is with the lack of kind of depth at corner, I think he's going to be a middle of the first round pick, round pick.
Especially with how he's going to test it out the combine, his quickness and his agility out of breaks. He's going to test so well. I don't know how fast he's going to be 40. I'm sure he's not going to be like a 4.3 guy, but I'm sure he's going to be no slower than a 4.5. And he's a playmaker, man. And that's what you want in the NFL today out of your cornerbacks. I mean, everybody loved Deron Bland last year. He was the most spoken about corner. He gave up all those yards, but he had 6 interceptions returned for touchdowns, so people don't care. If you can make plays, you're going to be picked high in the draft, and that's exactly what he is. I don't think he's much of a project guy. I know people love like Nate Wiggins. Nate Wiggins, great, but he has to put on some size, and he's a little bit of a project. Quinyon Mitchell, I think he's somebody that you can throw in the slot, even outside, and he's ready to go day one in the NFL. Now, will he play at a high level? No, but there's not much development that needs to happen, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think even if a player like him does drop, like even a little bit, like past his projections, I think a team will easily trade up and scoop him. Just the potential of him as a corner, and I don't want to say this quarterback or this draft isn't very deep at corner, but like for the talent level of some of these guys, the amount of difference is just insane. So I don't see a way he falls to 30. Although if he did, like Jeff said, I'm totally okay with it. Or if he falls to 29, rather. Booner, let's fucking go.
Let's go, boys.
Let's go, Boone. Let's go,
fellas. Let's go.
Hey,
cheeks are red because I drink some
yeah,
energy
say,
drinks on the
look,
way
you
here.
look a little,
I don't care. I'm mad today, and I have time.
His face is red. He's ready
I
to
saw
fucking
Snoop
go.
Dogg in concert today, fellas. I got to see Snoop Dogg. I was 20 feet away from him today.
He saw you.
La-di-da-di-da.
Snoop Dogg saw Booner too.
Did you really?
I did. Shout out Snoop, man.
Snoop Dogg,
Great,
yeah.
great performance, dude. Great performer, by the way. If you have never seen Snoop, great. Big John, number 77. Let's go, man.
Hey, Boone.
Let's go, Booner.
Before we get back to the mock draft, we kind of talked about it a little bit, but I just told the people like what transpired. I think they needed to know. Very brief, but your thought, I don't want to cut you out of the conversation. So you got anything you want to share?
I don't know what you guys shared, and I don't know how much I should or shouldn't share. You guys know me. I'm always gonna, and I thought about this. If you guys don't know who I am, and people in the chat, whether you hate me or not, or you like me, I think these guys could vouch. I think I might be one of the most like nicest and harmless people on the planet Earth. Like if they did a list like the most harmless person or the I am number one. I would never hurt anyone. I love everyone. The fact that I'm not caught up, the fact that what has happened of us being like, hey, let's do a show and we got told, hey, do this or that, everything that happened, and I felt professional about it, and I went about it the right way. Said, hey, like, and if you guys didn't know too, I pitched Woodward Nights for so long to so many people, and it finally happened. So it wasn't like anything against them. Everything that transpired was professional. Like, hey, we would rather do this, dude, and we would rather, I love all you boys here, and this is kind of the way we chose. The fact that today I got out of a Snoop Dogg concert and I got a text message saying, hey, we're blocked on Twitter. That made me very mad because I spent so long at Woodward Sports working for free, putting my hours in. If you guys don't know, I have a full-time job where I work 50 hours a week. I was working 40 to 50 hours a week at Woodward on top of that, 80, 90 hours. And that is not a joke. So to see that and in the time that I put in there to help grow that page and do what we did there, I think there's a little bit of disrespect. And I told you guys, I hopped on right before the show started, and I'm ready to go. We got to Woodward and we've done what we've done in our careers for a reason, because we have the passion. It just went to another level, and I love everyone there. Just went to another level. Yeah, the hours I put in there about to be put in here, and it was getting put in here, but it's about to be. We're coming, and I want people to know that.
And I want to say this, and we'll get back to because the real focus isn't going to be this. I just wanted to just let the people know, because I'm sick of acting like nothing happened. I'm over that. I am. And you know me, Booner, and me and you are very similar to way, and I think we're all kind of like this, where like I've never had no problems with nobody. Like I'm peaceful. I'm professional. I love what I do. I love my job. But it is frustrating. It is, and we could spend a whole hour talking about. We'll move on here.
And real quick too, and I just want to do this as well. Like, it's a crazy leap what we're doing. Like, we're really going out there and betting on ourselves. Like, Jeff, you had the morning show. Like, I just got a show at a network 5 months ago, and I was a lead. Like, this is something us going out there and taking a leap. We want to do it for the people, and because we love all of you guys here, and I love these fellas. And when I say, like, you guys hear me on other shows say, like, we're the best in the city, I know for a fact Lukas is the best ball knower. Gentry is one of the best people and best hockey and Red Wings guys in the city. Jeff is one of the best hosts in the city, and I know I have a lot of faith in myself to be the best. I'm sorry I'm going too much on this, guys. I know people don't want to hear that. I'm just so pumped up and fired up. I'm so fired up.
You're good. Fellas, more than anything, just remember we're replaceable. That's all you got to remember. We're replaceable.
Oh, everyone's replaceable.
Yeah, and it's more motivation, which I think we not that we needed, because we're already highly motivated, but you can always use it.
And we've been very quiet on all of this too. And I wanted to be quiet, but this didn't make me mad.
And I just want to say too, like, again, we love the guy. We have great friends that still work there. That's all we were doing while we were doing this channel, supporting those guys. And hey, that's what we get in return. So
it is what it is.
But guess what? Life ain't fair. So we could sit here and boo-hoo, or we can be great, and that's what
Be
we're gonna
great,
do.
baby.
We're gonna be great and leave all this drama. I hate drama, man. I do. I hate it. I hate it so much. I didn't want them to get away with what happened today, though. That's petty.
Like I said,
that's why I posted
elementary school, high school shit.
Yeah, that's petty. So I'm like, damn right, I'm letting the people know that. But typically, I don't like drama. I just want to do my job. That's it.
That's all I do. I second that. And like I said, I'm the nicest person. I've never. I don't like to be involved in stuff, and I'm like the nicest person on the planet, and that just kind of fired me up a little bit. And we're gonna be great. We're gonna be one of the best in the city. I can guarantee you that. Like, if you guys didn't think, you guys saw how they grew the last 2 years, guess what?
Who
was there? Guess who was there?
Just us, but
yeah, but
Booner, especially with us on the socials and stuff. Who really grew it?
It was a 2-man.
These are
2 years.
Four of the core parts, and obviously there's other people that are there still, but that place grew quick, and it had a lot to do with us. So the way that they kind of gave us a backhand out the door, it'll just be remembered. It's like, okay, that's all it is.
Yeah, and that's not to take away from the other people that work there, like the Ryan Lenses and Noah. Those guys are insane, and they did so much work too. And we were just a great team. That was basically what it boiled down to. It was friends working for each other. We weren't really working for the power above. We came there every day to work and see each other and try and grow it. And that's what we're going to do with this now. So it is what it is. The boys are moving on, and we're going to be great. I guarantee it.
Oh, boys.
Yeah. No, listen, at the end of the day, hopefully the people that still tune in, you'll see my face on a commercial they still play. So, it is what it is. I got a lot of love for my guys over there, man. Seriously, I do. I love the people there's people that I do love. And they know who they are. They do.
Yeah.
But regardless, let's get back to football. Let's get back to Lions talk. We wanted to address that because we have our own platform, and this is our platform, and it ain't going nowhere. So, again, thank you guys. Seriously, without you guys, we'd be nothing. But let's get back to this mock draft. Now that you're here, Booner, I did want to put people. We were kind of breaking it down a little bit here. I just want to make sure we can get this. All right. So this is PFF's mock draft for the Lions. They did a 5-rounder, and they traded back obviously because they had picked 29 and they picked 30 in this one, and they got Quinyon Mitchell. And I have 2 things to say on this, and I'll let Booner share his thoughts. Number one, I don't know if it's even possible that Quinyon's still there, even if you trade back at 30. And number 2, I hope they don't take a corner in the first round.
Jeff, you want me to be honest with you? If Brad Holmes trades back to 30, gets some assets, and somehow Quinyon Mitchell falls to 30, I don't think, and I get you don't want to get a corner, you want a D-end, I get that. That's the second best corner probably in the draft, and he's supposed to go top 15, top 20. So if that happens, and you said whose mock draft is this? ESPN?
PFF.
This is PFF.
If this happens, this is an A+. If I'm being just dead honest, if Quinyon Mitchell falls to 30 and you trade back, get some more assets, and if you somehow get more assets and get Quinyon Mitchell, I think that's one of the bigger steals in the draft, to be honest. And I wouldn't be surprised if Brad somehow pulls that off. I'm kind of more shocked that Quinyon Mitchell fell to 30.
Yeah, if we're being real, fellas, and I'll ask you guys this: what position would you prefer? Let's say Quinyon's on the board. Maybe you just prefer to take him, and I would agree with that if he's still there. Like, hell, you have to in a way. But if it's not a corner, we all agree it's edge or anybody. I saw a couple of people say guard in the first round, which I don't think is happening.
You know what? Remember when Nick came on the show a couple days ago, and he mentioned, I know a lot of people too, D-end is kind of an option. Do you remember when he came on and said that this isn't really a deep defensive end class to where you take one in the first round? Because we were talking about the positional value and all of that for D-end. I don't know. I think if a Quinyon Mitchell's there, like a corner, like you best player available, and if there's not a lot of D-ends available, I get the offensive line, but I think if the second best corner in the draft is available at 30, you have to take that. You have to.
Yeah, I think it's really just best available for the position of those 3 in need. I really wouldn't go guard or offensive lineman. I would try and build from the defensive edge, defensive interior. But like if a guy like Quinyon Mitchell is there, I do think you take that, and I just don't think you really question it. And like Booner said, if you can get more draft capital too by trading back and somehow finessing this trade off, I think there's no way you don't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be disappointed if they took if they took Powers. I believe he's out of Oregon, the guard hybrid center.
Yeah.
If he goes in the first round and Lions walk out of there, I would be smiling from ear to ear, because that just shows me that, yeah, it's not the most exciting pick, but we're taking the players that we need to take to make this thing last. To what Jeff was saying earlier, I would almost prefer an interior offensive lineman over the cornerback. I know corner is a bigger position of need, but if you are taking a corner at 30, and if Quinyon falls to 30, there's probably a reason he's falling to 30. There's probably going to be some developmental things. If you can get an interior guard, if you can get a center at 30, a lot of the times, those guys are day one starters. Look at Creed Humphrey for the Chiefs. He's a former all-pro center. He's a great center. He's going to be an all-pro again in his career. Second-round pick. You can look at numerous. You go around the NFL. A lot of the guards, a lot of the centers, they're second, third, fourth, fifth-round picks. So if they go and they get one in the first round, I'm not going to be mad at it, because the value's there. The value is there, especially if Brad's taking them.
Yeah, honestly, I think you did a good job of breaking that down. I think when I first heard guard, you're like, ugh. But if you get a guy like Powers, who he's a center, he could play guard, like he's versatile, there is a ton of value in that. Like I get that. If you have a guy that can play 2-3 positions on your offensive line, to me that's worth especially a late first round pick. I'm with Nick though. If let's say Quinyon's off the board and there's nobody there that Brad's in love with, absolutely. I can see Brad also trading back into the second round, like Nick brought up. Like I think that would be a great, because then you acquire more picks, more draft capital, and you're giving more ammunition to an absolute sniper. So like, I'm cool with that.
Yeah,
I'm cool with that as well. Steve Wild says Powers definitely has all pro potential. I know a lot of people are high on Powers. Like that's who I see a lot of Lions fans talking about as well. And so, hey, I could see potentially a fit there. Let's see. K Boogie says Quinyon Mitchell is a part of the Booner path.
Hey, he indeed is.
Devin says trade up for JJ McCarthy. Devin,
no, hey,
damn it, Devin.
That would be disaster. I'm
Bada bing, bada boom.
Be going crazy.
Says I want Quinyon Mitchell, sign Stephon Gilmore, and re-sign Mosley.
Stack that room up, man.
Load
Stack
it up.
that room up.
Dark Flame says interior line, defense, or offense. Yeah, and that's, again, like people forget early on, at least when Brad was drafting players, it was built from the trenches. I think he goes back to that a little bit this year. Let's go to the next pick. Picked round 2. Oh my gosh.
6'4", 300.
Defensive
Pronounce
lineman,
this one, Jeff. Pronounce this one.
Defensive lineman Rook or Orho. What the hell?
Orho.
It's gotta be Orho. No, but I think you almost got it. Orho. It's a horo, I think. Horo. Yeah,
okay.
It's gotta be a horo.
I'm gonna go watch some game film on him, and I'm gonna hear how the announcers say it. I'll get back to you guys tomorrow.
Steven said just call him Oreo. I don't know. Like,
there we go. There we go.
Oreo.
Yeah, so we'll call him Rook. All right, is that?
Yeah.
All right, Rook, defensive lineman out of Clemson, 6'4", 295. Hey, I saw defensive lineman. I haven't really dove into film on guys that are top, 60 picks or anything like that. This would be top 62 pick. I don't know about Rook. I see defensive line. I'm on board. I'm cool with it.
Yeah, I'm with you, Jeff. I don't know the prospect like that. Again, I'll have to go dive into it a little bit more. But defensive interior, if it's not with the first pick, I think it has to be the second. I think if you take an edge, a corner, whoever you take in the first, if it's not a defensive interior, I think is a lock in the second round because the value's there. And that's where you find a lot of the good interior guys around the league. And not all of them are first-round picks. Yes, the upper echelon ones are. But when you start looking at second-round picks over the history of the draft, there's a lot of guys. I mean, even look back to Ashawn Robinson with the Lions. He wasn't anything crazy, but he was a second-round pick out of Alabama that was very solid. Went to the Rams, was a key part of their defensive line that won a Super Bowl. So you can find guys in the second round, especially around this area. I think this is where they need to address the interior of the defensive line, even more so than an edge. Yeah,
and you know what, too? Jeff, kind of what you said a little bit ago about kind of the addressing it from the inside out, and on offense, that's what kind of they've done the last 2 or 3 years is they made that offensive line. Defensively, I think on the defensive side, it's the same thing. Like this year, you have to get an interior or edge rusher. I'm kind of with Lucas though. Second round, I mean, take a shot. I mean, this dude's 6'4", 295. I mean, just keep kind of stopping the run there. I mean, I think you just kind of build on that, to be honest.
Yeah, and kind of to piggyback off of what Nick said the other day, assuming that the defensive edge class for this year isn't all that great and that Brad's maybe going to venture out and sign someone, it wouldn't be a bad idea to, with your second pick, to go and beef up the defensive interior. And this guy, 6'4", 300 pounds, and he's good on the run defense, adds to what already is a Lions strength. And obviously maybe he might be able to help out with the pass rush with Aleem getting so many looks in the middle. So I don't mind it at all. And if the defensive edge is that bad, then like Lucas said, you might have to look to defensive interior first and then kind of build through free agency and address the edge.
Yeah, at least when you're looking at defensive tackles, and I know for this specific player, I don't know much. I would just say this: preferably if you're drafting a defensive tackle or defensive lineman, it's got to be someone that can get after the quarterback. Like that, the whole like. I think that's
so?
That preferably. Like when we mentioned Kalijah Cansey, like why was everybody infatuated with the idea of drafting Kalijah Cansey? Because you put him next to Aleem, and he's like kind of the polar opposite. Where instead of there's question marks for his run defense, but man, he's a hell of a pass rusher. Am I off there?
See, I don't think you're off. Like what you're saying is not incorrect. Like you can never use more pass rushing ability. But after watching Aleem this year and seeing how he did obviously he lost a lot of weight coming into the season, seeing how he was able to get to the quarterback, if you get a big body in there that commands double teams, like that's what I'm not saying they expected Broderick to start day one and make an impact, but that's what they're expecting out of Broderick. A big guy to take up double teams. I think it's so you can free up Aleem McNeil, so you can free up Aiden Hutchinson. You can free up bookend on the opposite side. If you get a big boy in there that's 330, 340, and that commands a double team, that gets Aleem McNeil on one-on-ones. And if he does that, it's barbecue chicken. So it's almost like if you take just a run stopping, a Grover Stewart type of guy, that helps it out, not on the stat sheet, but in just the overall, it can change the dynamic of the defense.
Why not get a guy that can do both, though? Like to Jeff's point, like you need to get to the quarterback. That was the problem this last year, especially with quarterbacks that can run the ball.
Right.
Why get a guy that can only do one thing? Like when you probably are going to have options to be able to get someone with both. It does say here he's going to develop into more of a pass rusher throughout the rookie season. You're at the point though, and this is kind of the Broderick Martin point as well, the 3rd round pick, to where and Lucas, you said this yesterday, that you need guys that can kind of step up and do this stuff right away. And you can't draft guys that you're going to have to develop. Like you've already did that with Broderick. Now you have to go get a dude. And that's what it comes down to. And if you don't think you can get a dude like that in the interior, then you go take someone else at a different position and you go in there and you go draft someone else and you go get a defense and an interior guy in the free agency pool. And that's kind of how Brad's got to look at this is, hey, if you don't feel like you can go get a guy that can make an impact through the draft in these first couple rounds, then go to free agents and find a guy in a different position who can impact this game. Because you're at that point now. Like the Chiefs every year, they're not drafting. Like, yes, they want to develop guys, but in those first couple rounds, especially when you're picking towards the end of the first round, you're starting to get really, really particular on you have to get guys that can help right away. And that's what we're at now. Like, and I say it all the time. We're on the 49ers level. We're on the Chiefs level. We're on that level to where now when you're drafting these first couple rounds, you're expected to hit on these guys, and these guys are expected to make plays for you year one. So if this guy's not going to do that and he's just a run stopper, yes, that's what you're really good at right now. That's what you're already good at. Like you need someone to help with the pass rush, and maybe you have to just go get an interior in free agency. But maybe he can. I got to watch some film on this dude.
If you're doing it in free agency, I just beg that we're not going to keep recycling the same old defensive tackles like we've been doing. We need to go out there and go and actually get a player. I'm tired of seeing the Benito Joneses and the Buggses and shit. Like you need some.
hey, don't disrespect the
great people. Don't hate them by any means, but you need to line someone up next to Aleem. It can't be a 35-year-old guy. Like it's just not the way to do it.
Real quick, can we hijack this real quick and show the clips that we were watching earlier with the defensive end out of UCLA?
Yeah, you know what? I could. You know what? I got you. Hold on.
I say we cook that up.
Yeah, can you explain to people who it is? You mentioned to me earlier, like this dude's legit. And
let me pull up his name so I don't butcher it. But he's projected, honestly, I don't think he's going to be there at 29. But if you talk about a guy I could see Brad trading up and getting, let me hold on real quick. It's because I don't want to butcher his name. The defensive end out of UCLA, though.
Latu, right?
Latu, like Leotu, I believe is how you say it. But this man,
We're having trouble with names today.
like
we got to figure this name situation out.
All I know is if you're in the Pac-12 and you're a crazy Samoan, you pan out in the NFL. Your ceiling is extremely high. And watching this guy, his burst off the line is insane. His bend is his leverage against offensive tackles is insane. His way to split double teams and get to the quarterback, and then his athleticism to even make plays in the pass game. I would be thrilled if Brad traded up and took this guy. If he traded up in the top 15, obviously I'm not going to be mad if Brad doesn't get him. But if you want to talk about a guy that I see playing for the Detroit Lions on the opposite end of Aiden Hutchinson and making a difference, it is this man right here. What did he have, Jeff? 13 sacks last year?
Yeah, in the Pac-12.
Yeah, against Caleb Williams, one of the most mobile quarterbacks in the country, had 2 sacks against him. And you'll see here, maybe if we show that part of it, but he splits a double team. The tackle didn't stand a chance off the line of scrimmage. The running back tried to help out and chip, but he didn't stand a chance. He split it and took Caleb down with one arm. I mean, he's honestly probably the most athletic defensive end in college football.
Yeah, this is some
this man is a monster.
Yeah,
right now.
Oh, jeez.
That's what Hutch does.
Yeah,
and then look at him on the return.
Yeah, this
man is a monster.
He's projected what, first round in the
he's projected like top 15ish, but it's because he's a little bit undersized for a defensive end. Like he almost could look like an outside linebacker, but if you just watch this man's hand skills off the line, like you didn't even see the offensive lineman put his hand up because he already swatted it down.
Yeah, it's damn near impossible to block this dude. I mean, he's and again, like the offensive line play, we watched it, the Oklahoma State game, he played really well. In Oregon State, excuse me.
Yeah, and Oregon State had the best offensive line in college football this year. Booner, you can attest to that. Their offensive line, they have numerous guys. Look,
that's the play. That's the play.
Yeah. Can you go back?
There's one more.
Or no?
Yeah, there's a reminder right here.
I mean,
jeez, splits a double team. Just
he's legit. And there's a lot of good options, like great options there, at least later. And he's a first round pick, but those guys are all gonna go early.
Yeah,
especially for guys that are, if you can stop the run, if you could do what he's doing, which is just consistently win your one-on-ones, like that dude's going top 20. So like that.
I don't know how I feel about Brad trading up yet. I don't think I've kind of fully thought about that yet, but I don't know. When Nick came in and talked about trading back and getting more assets for Brad Holmes, didn't hate it. I to be honest, I guess that's something that in the next couple of weeks we could talk about and go through. But obviously, if you get a guy like that who's going to make an impact like that, it's just what are you giving up then? Because you don't have as many assets as you've had as the past. So that's where I'm interested to see.
So here's the third round pick for PFF to kind of go back to. They take guard Christian Mahogany.
Mahogany.
Jeff is struggling.
We're having a day.
Why do they give us
crazy Samoan name?
Yeah, why do we get the most complicated names? Like I think
that one's not that complicated, but the other two.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jeff.
Regardless, all right, here we go. They say the Lions field one of the best NFL offensive lines. A big reason why they're still playing football in late January, but with Jonah Jackson and Graham Glasgow set to hit the free agent market, there could be some shifting going on with the unit, even if they both return. Glasgow's age means they could use some youth in there. Mahogany plays with an in-your-face style that the Lions seem to have built their trenches around. He's one of the more powerful interior offensive linemen in this class, earning PFF's pass blocking grade above 80 in each of his past 2 seasons. All right. Thanks, guys.
Hey, back to what we were saying. That's why we love the chat. It's why we love the chat. Hold us accountable.
But regardless, like there's the player. They take a guard in the third round. I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it.
It's right about the round and right about the pick that you would be okay with them. Kind of Brad Holmes picking his guy for the offensive line. So don't hate it at all. You're going to have to address it one way or another. So Get whatever guy you think's the best available at the best spot for him. You're going to have to get one eventually.
Hey, boys, if we're being real, I think this is where Brad should take a DB. Kirby Joseph, iffy. He hasn't missed in the third round when it comes to DBs. Go get a guard. Go get either an edge or a defensive interior. Get your DB here, Brad. I think especially where his draft is, especially in the first round, it's extremely offensively heavy. Go get your offensive guard first in the second or the first round and get your DBs now. This is where Brad cooks in the third round with DBs. I think this is where you should keep doing it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think like that's a thing. I mean, maybe it is, but like just because he's in the past in the third round doesn't mean every year he's going to get a DB in the third round. It's going to hit. I just think like a guard, you have to get a guard. You have to get someone on that offensive line. And if you go, where do they go? What was the first pick? A corner. You get a corner. And you got a defensive lineman. I think you have to. What did we say yesterday? Like, Lucas, we have so many we have a loaded DB room right now at the moment, right? Like, what are the three things that right now that you need is a corner, a defensive lineman, and someone on that offensive line to kind of back and just in case you can't re-sign Jonah or Frank goes down, whatever it is, you need kind of that reliable piece to keep this whole thing and this offensive line built up. I wouldn't mind them going a guard in the third round. I wouldn't. No. Like, address the needs, unless you're doing it for agency, address the needs. I get your thing that you got, some DBs in the third. I mean, you could probably get a DB in the third or fourth, and it's the same thing, or close to it. I see what you're saying, though.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I'm kind of leaning towards like if you're taking a DB, third round has been like the bread and butter for Brad.
That's what I'm saying, man.
Just because he's going to be four in the past doesn't mean it's just every third round he's going to find a great DB.
Hey, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
So what you're going to do? You're going to keep doing it until it doesn't work and then just like waste a pick? Like,
no, but all I'm saying is
be smart. Like, if there's not a DB there, go after someone you need and someone that can play. Like,
you're right. All I'm saying is I prefer them to get a guard, especially just because, like we talk about the back end of the first round. I would prefer a guard at the back end of the first round, preferred to a corner. And if they take a defensive edge or interior in the second round, obviously go corner in the third. I'm not going to be mad at it. Take whichever order you want. Brad Holmes can decide. Obviously, he's right. But I'm just saying I would rather go guard before corner, if that makes sense. Kind of vice versa of what this PFF draft is saying.
Yeah, and we're not saying that you should wait till the third to take a DB. I mean, you could, but I'm just saying for some reason, second, third round, like after the I wait till I don't want a DB in the first, preferably, Booner. That's all my point is.
No, I'm with you on that.
Okay, then we're good.
I'm just saying, hey, if the draft played out the way it has so far on this mock draft, and you kind of still need to adjust that guard and that offensive line position, I don't think it's a bad idea to go guard here and take the mahogany, the wood flavor here.
Well, look at the wood hey, so at pick 73, they get a guard. At pick 93.
Oh, guess what?
Hey.
Round 3.
Kyrie that's what we wanted, Jeff. That's what we wanted.
Corner out of Oregon. And you know what I love, guys? I love when DBs played wide receiver. I love it. I love it. And here's another guy. Because hands, baby, hands, instincts. Most DBs, you don't have hands. That's why you're playing DB. If you had hands, you play wide receiver. So if you're a wide out or a wide receiver and you switch to corner, hey, Kyrie Jackson. I didn't watch. I got to go back and watch him as well. But it says here he played wide receiver in high school, then switched to corner while attending Fort Scott Community College. He was on Last Chance U.
Hey, you know what that means? I'm not even trying to be funny. And this is for a lot of JUCO guys. That goes right into the Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes grit mentality. JUCO guys, to make it to JUCO and then you end up being a third round pick out of Oregon potentially, that says a lot about a dude's character and his ability to overcome circumstances.
Hey, corner in the third, I'm cool with it.
They doubled down. Doubled down. 2 corners in this draft. Round 1 and round 3. That's kind of crazy. And not crazy, but like that's a bold statement.
And you'd have to assume, Boone, too, like they're going to sign a corner in free agency, right? Like you're not going to draft 2 corners, be like, all right, guys, let's roll. Like 2 rookie corners out there playing. I would assume they sign a veteran, but we shall see. It says right here on PFF, this past season was his best. His movement skills are intriguing for a player with his length and press coverage abilities. He allowed just 206 passing yards and a sub 50% completion percentage. Hey, he can lock up. Plays well.
Yeah.
I'm cool with it. All right,
Yeah.
round 5, the last
Especially
pick.
playing on Oregon's defense. That
Edge rusher.
Oregon's head coach, Booner, what's off the top of my head is Danny Payton. Am I tweaking? Or Danny Manning, right? For Oregon, their head coach.
No, Dan Lanning. Excuse me.
Lanning, yeah.
Dan Lanning,
his defense, that's a very physical defense. So taking a DB out of there, he's going to be good against the run. He's going to be good in man coverage. That'd be a smart pick.
Yeah, and hey, he was the DC at Georgia, so defensive-minded guy. Round 5, they don't have a 4th round pick, so there you go. Round 5, pick 167, edge Brendan Jackson out of Washington State. It says he isn't just a pass rush specialist with his career pass rush win rate hovering around 11%, but he has a strong bull rush and doesn't shy away from contact. He feels like the kind of football player the Lions gravitate towards as a depth player on the edge. I mean, yeah, round 5, taking an edge.
Take a shot at someone.
Yeah,
hey, by the way,
work.
see you later, Rick. Appreciate you for joining the show, man.
Shout
Much
out,
love to
Rick.
you. Always.
shout out. And I think assuming this draft, like the way this panned out, they are like assuming that they addressed the edge in free agency because I think there's no way that you wait this long and you draft 2 corners. And then obviously I hope you still sign a veteran corner. But the way this, and obviously these mock drafts barely have transparency to what happens, and with Brad Holmes or really any GM, but like assuming they did this one, they would have definitely addressed defensive edge in free agency.
I'm gonna say this too. In that text there, it says he isn't a pass rush specialist with his career pass rush win rate hovering around 11%, but he has a good strong bull rush and doesn't shy away from contact. I don't know if I like a guy like that. Like, I want a dude that's going to get after the quarterback. Just personally, it's kind of like the interior situation. I want an edge rusher who, and I get it. And there they say he's kind of like a football player or a football guy that the Lions would gravitate towards. That I think is like what they've gravitated towards the last 3 or 4 years. And we know at this point, and I'm sure, I hope Brad, and we trust everything in Brad, I hope he knows that's not what we need anymore. We need to get after the quarterback. You have to get after the quarterback. Don't go get me a guy that could do a cool bull rush and just make something happen in the run game on the edge. Just go get me someone who can go get to the quarterback. That just, to me, it's like end of story. That's all I want. I just need someone to get to Patrick Mahomes or Jalen Hurts or Brock Purdy or whoever it is in the NFC Championship game or with Super Bowl. I just want someone who can go get to the quarterback. Please. That's all I'm asking for.
But you got to think too. You got to think too. Well, one, they doubled down on 2 positions, right? They took 2 corners and 2 edges. But 2, if you're drafting someone in the 5th round, like he's more of a project. Like, let's be real here. Like, he's more of a guy. He's more of somebody that you feel like with the coaching you have that can be developed into a good player.
Would you rather have a project though that doesn't pass rush well, or would you have a project that can pass rush and you could turn him into something like a James Houston and go dominate? Like, what would you rather have, Jeff, going into this next year? Because look at James Houston. James Houston was a late round pick, and guess what? He was a great pass rusher, and he went out there and did it. I don't want a guy who can't pass rush on the edge. Like, go get me some dudes who can get to the quarterback and finish the job. And I don't care if it's a project, a 5th round pick. Just go get me a guy. Am I wrong? Anyway, like is that a crazy statement? I get what you're saying, but
you're not wrong. You just have to like Colby Sorsdahl, for example. Like, you kind of know, like, I don't want to say maybe a project would be disrespectful, but like, there's work to be done with him. Like, and
but
that's
you have the luxury though.
Well, hey, what do you mean? You have
the luxury on the offensive line to get a guy like him later in the draft, and
and that's why they doubled up with another edge. But I don't know how I feel about that too. If you're doubling up, I guess you do it on the defensive line. I think that'd be my preference. Yeah. I don't know about 2 corners because you're gonna like assuming they sign one, right? Then you draft one. I think. Yeah. Excuse me. Especially that corner right there. That's
especially if you're taking that corner that early. I don't like doubling up on it. If you're going to take a corner that early, then I think you take 2 defensive edges, or you take a defensive tackle and defensive edge. Like, there's no way you double up and your first pick is a corner. That's just no.
Yeah, and I'm going to give you guys the grade they gave them on this mock draft. So there's the 5 rounder. We're going to do a full 7 round draft. That's the grades they gave.
I do really like the fact that potentially like doubling up on DB, especially get with that extra pick in the 3rd round. But I think we're all on the same page here. I would almost prefer double up on the DB with the second round and the third round pick, or even if you want to go both in the third round, I'm not going to be mad at it. But doubling up on DB, I think, especially with the injuries you see at the cornerback position specifically, I think that's the best way to roll, and that's the best way to elevate your weakness with this roster.
So, quick question with that then, and I guess kind of we're talking about doubling up, and you're like, hey, what position would you rather double up? If I'm being honest, in the conversations we've had the last week, or like kind of initial thoughts on free agency and everything, is we want to go get a corner in free agency. If you bring Emmanuel Mosley back and you have Cam Sutton, and then you go get a free agent corner, and then you draft a corner, I'm at the point to where you have 4 corners there that are going to be able to go out there and make a difference, right?
Fair.
Like you would at least hope whoever you sign for agency, you're hoping they better. Whoever Brad brings in better, and if you draft a guy in the first or second round, a corner, I would hope he kind of starts to make an impact. So in my opinion, like if I'm thinking about it like logically like that, I almost would rather double up a defensive line, a DN, like
At
go
the edge,
go give me 2 edge rushers in the draft, and then you could still sign an edge rusher in free agency, but you're just getting that much more. Like to me, it's you need more guys on the defensive line than you need corners in that corner room. And I would rather take more shots on the defensive line with a shot for one of those guys to hit than I would with corners, because you can go get a Stephon Gilmore. You can go get different guys, and you still can bring back Emmanuel Mosley and Cam Sutton. So that's where I'm at. I just think like DN, like you can have 6, 7, 8 DNs on the team. If you need to go draft 2 of them, do it and bring a guy in. Like take as many chances as you can, man. That's where I'm at.
Totally agree.
People chiming in. Lisa says, whose mock draft is this? That was a PFF's mock draft for the Detroit Lions. Jack says, Brennan Jackson had 9 sacks this year, had a pretty good pass rush win rate. And yeah, I can't wait. I mean, the Ronin says, I've heard a lot of good things about him, by the way.
Mason Smith?
Yeah, Mason Smith. I think LSU defensive tackle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard a lot
Any
of good
SEC guy in the second round as far as an offensive lineman, I'm sold on. Just because they have so much experience, and that's especially huge when you're trying to play the guy year one. If they're playing in the SEC at a lineman, there's a big gap, in my opinion, compared to athleticism, especially with the linemen compared to the Big Ten, the SEC, and the ACC. It's SEC all the way. If you're a mobile offensive lineman, mobile defensive lineman, a lot of the times, if you're not going to Ohio State or Michigan, you're playing somewhere in the SEC. And that's why I think Brad loves these guys out of Alabama so much. And that's why you look at Jahmyr Gibbs, Brian Branch. That's why he likes those guys, because he knows that that's going to be the most pro-ready system that you're going to be in if you're playing in the SEC. Frank Ragnow, offensive center out of Arkansas. Yeah, it's not a big school in the SEC, but the fact is he's going up against the guys from Bama. He's going up with the guys from Georgia. He's going up from the guys from LSU. SEC offensive lineman, it's gold. It really is.
Hey, the SEC and Michigan, either one, good. Draft them.
Taylor Decker, Ohio State, baby.
SEC or Michigan, baby.
All right, you stick to that one. Now with Jimmy gone, Sharon Moore now.
Yeah. Hey, well, that's a whole nother thing. We'll break that down at some point.
Oh man,
too. A lot of those staff members. Hey, the Michigan men, you guys got to stand on business. A lot of those.
We're gonna be all right.
Don't have to stand on business. We won a national championship. I don't care what happens next year. To be honest, there's a national
either way.
I don't care.
And there was a lot of things going against you guys as far as momentum. So I'm an Ohio State fan, but I have a lot of respect for what Michigan did this year, especially with Ryan Day at Ohio State, bro. If there was ever an era where I would give Michigan respect, it'd be this one. So hats off to Michigan.
Hey, that's the only thing that would hurt Michigan and hurt us kind of going forward is if Ohio State goes to win a national championship next year. That would be the only thing. And that's the only thing I'm hoping doesn't happen. But outside of that, we just won a national championship. I really don't care anything going forward. I don't care. Jim Harbaugh, go to the NFL, do this. Yeah. There's like a lot of people, like I know Flannel was taking crap about the Michigan stuff. Like there's a lot of people going like, oh, well, they're not on this level. I don't care if they're on the SEC level. I don't care if they're on the Georgia level. I don't care about any of that. Guess what? Just won a national championship. Who cares? Don't write narratives. They have a national championship. A lot of schools don't. So,
yeah, well, that's a fair. That's a fair assessment. I don't hate that.
I want to remember the name.
Will Howard. Don't
do your thing, Will.
Hey, all Ohio State needs is a guy who won't shit his pants after the first read isn't there. And that's exactly what Will Howard is. He's gonna be able to distribute the ball perfectly fine. Travion Henderson's back. I can't remember the running back at Ole Miss is off the top of my head, But they, without a doubt, had the best transfer portal out of anybody in the country, and that's exactly what they needed.
They did. Ohio State killed it. I'm not gonna lie. Like, yeah, Ohio State killed it. It's a little
Who's the
scary,
safety
but
from Bama? I can't think of Jalen. Can't think of my Jalen Down. The thing I know it's wrong.
Maven?
No, they got a safety from Bama. Who's
they have a lot of guys.
I wanted to bring this up, and this is actually brought up by Mike, and he asked this earlier, just as like a topic, and I loved it because I do think it's relevant to next year. Obviously, we all think the Lions are the team to beat in the NFC North, actually one of the teams to beat in the NFC. But if we're talking NFC North, besides the Lions, who's a team? I don't want to say that could like break out because they were all pretty mid. I mean, but who's a team that could be significantly better potentially, or a team that you think will quote unquote arrive? Maybe we still think the Lions will win the NFC North, but besides them, who's a team to look out for? Lucas, you could start. We'll just go around, and I'll go last.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say somebody else besides the Packers because I think it's the obvious one. But if we're being real, it's the Green Bay Packers. And I'm not the biggest Matt LaFleur guy, but I still think in the playoffs he's a little bit suspect. But you talk about in the regular season with the way that Jordan Love looked, with the way that Jaden Reed developed, the way that Romeo Dobbs, you can keep going with the weapons that they have. Their defense is a little bit suspect. When you just look at that offense, though, especially the way that Aaron Jones finished this season, I don't think there's not a way. I know that the 49ers are in the NFC West, but the Detroit Lions' biggest competitor, in my opinion, not only in the NFC, but in the NFC North in particular, is the Green Bay Packers. If you can handle them, you can handle the NFC. But they're going to play them twice a year. And then those two games, you're going to see a lot of what the Detroit Lions are really all about because Green Bay, you can use the same argument for them that you used for the Lions last year. They're a very young roster that you could argue should not have been in the position that they were in, but they somehow got there, and they look pretty damn good. And they look pretty damn good on all three phases. So if they show up how they did in the last stretch of the season last year, it's without a doubt the Green Bay Packers.
We got, by the way, real quick, and I gotta address this before we move on. Dante, appreciate you for the $2. Nick Baton got traded to Baltimore from the Tigers. There's the thing we got.
Just now.
Yeah, that's what he's
just
saying.
Now? I liked him. That was the Wolf, dude. I love the Wolf, man. Oh, dude.
And we got some great Tigers people that cover the sport that we're going to have on to kind of break more Tigers down in the future. So that'll be exciting there. But to kind of continue with what we were kind of talking about there, and appreciate you, Dante. Thank you. Gentry, who's the team to you?
No, I obviously came up with this topic, but I'm right there with Lucas. I had the Packers. I do think the Bears and the Vikings are both 7-10. I do think the Vikings with Kirk Cousins obviously will be a little bit better than last year. And then I do think the Bears, they have a lot of cap space and they have some draft picks, and they're obviously going to grow a little bit, but it's got to be the Packers. I think with the weapons they have on offense, Jaden Reed, Aaron Jones, who looked fantastic to end the year. And their defense always isn't great, but like they're always able to get it done, and they're always at least decent. So if they can figure out a few of their positions, obviously getting to the quarterback, and they had some trouble at linebacker too. And then I'm pretty sure they have some contracts to work out with Jair Alexander. I'm not sure how long he's actually there.
He's most likely gone.
Yeah, so that's going to be obviously a hole for them to fill. But I think Jordan Love, he got a lot better this year. And with the weapons he does have around him, a full season of Aaron Jones, I think that offense is going to be pretty good. And I think the Packers, obviously they went 9-8 last year. I think they still have some room to improve, and I think they'll get a couple games better.
Booner?
Yeah, I mean, same as the other two. I mean, I was piggyback off that. It's the Packers. I mean, Jordan Love's Jordan Love. We saw what he did in the playoffs. Matt LaFleur, I mean, if you guys, he's an underrated coach as much as some people hate him.
It's your boy.
Shout out the Cards, man. We both have the same degree from the same place. So, I mean, it's one of those things. It's like, it's just, that's going to be the team that's going to compete. It might not, I don't know. Like, I think the Lions are going to be really good next year, but you're still going to be competing in week 13, week 12. And it's going to be the Packers that are right there behind you going for that division. So I'm going to go, I'll go Packers as well.
So here we go. Let me, and I can't really disagree, to be honest with you, because the Packers.
Give us another option, though. Give us another option.
Let me tell you about the Bears.
Oh, the Floos.
Mm-hmm. Boo this man.
And
we did this last offseason. Get over it, dude.
Well, hold on.
Come on.
Hold on.
Adam's going to come for your neck.
So,
hey,
I've struggled thinking in my mind, okay, Packers will be second. We have the Bears and the Vikings. The Bears are going to have a rookie quarterback. They have 2 first-round picks. They got a good defense, and I think another year. And I don't like Eberflus either, but he is a defensive coach, right? So the defense will be improved. We'll just assume there. If they don't have Fields and they have Caleb Williams, they DJ Moore, they got some pieces on offense. It's intriguing. But you know what? Kirk Cousins, how he was playing last year to start the year, if he's back in Minnesota, and I know he'll be out, that's also another team that I think is a weak, because if Brian Flores is still there, if they add more to the defense, I don't think the Vikings are going to win like 2 games. I think they'll be relevant. But I do in a way, if they get Caleb Williams, I don't hate the Bears winning. I mean, what they win this year? They were like 2-6 or something like that. They won.
Tyson Badgett looks serviceable for them.
Yeah, so if they get Caleb Williams,
this is it. Okay, if they get Caleb Williams, maybe. But this is like the same thing we heard last offseason from the Bears. Was like their defense is going to improve. They have some weapons on offense, and guess what? Like they didn't look like towards the end of the year. Yeah, they started to come together. The fact that they kept Matt Eberflus, to me, Jeff, tells you the whole thing right there. That tells you the whole story you need to know. They're going to, they finished 3rd in the NFC North. They're not going to sit there and compete with the Lions for the NFC North next year. Not going to happen. Just no, dude, I give you a percentage, there's a 1% chance. And that's if Matt Eberflus somehow gets fired before the season and gets caught doing weird things at home and he gets fired. And they bring in someone else.
Bro, what?
I don't know, dude. I'm just trying to think of a way for him to get fired before the season. So I can think of. I just don't see we're talking about competing with for the NFC North. Dude, tell me it's the Bears. That's what this is, right? Who's the closest team to compete?
It's more so who's second, right? Who will be second in the NFC?
So the Bears.
North? I mean, I don't think it's.
I almost want to leave this room right now.
You guys know.
I might flannel Sam this and dip for a second.
You guys know how I feel about Caleb Williams. I like Caleb a lot. I think he's going to be really, really good. I do. They have pieces there. Now, if Justin Fields is there, I'm with you. I got no confidence in Justin Fields. I don't.
But Matt Eberflus is there.
Okay, but here, Booner, they won. Okay, go on. No, Lucas, you're good.
My whole thing is I agree with you, Jeff. If Caleb Williams is there, I think he will be good, especially with DJ Moore. The way that they're a run first team, he can help them out with the play action.
Look what Stroud did in Houston.
Correct. But how often does that happen? It's not going to happen in back-to-back years. And rookie quarterbacks are going to be rookie quarterbacks. The NFC North and the AFC South, the NFC North, especially next year, had the Lions and the Packers. The AFC South this year had the Titans, the Colts, who they were a playoff team. They're all right, but they were the Colts. They didn't have a high ceiling. The Jags fell apart. That was a weak division, and the Texans won it. There's no way in hell that the Bears are winning it with the rookie quarterback, in my opinion. I hear what you're saying. You're not being ignorant, especially if they get Caleb. But I could hear that argument for entering Caleb's second year more so than his first year.
And that's fair. If we're being real, I don't have a ton of ground to stand on, if I'm being 100%. The Packers are the team that are going to be contending.
That's what it felt like. It felt like you were just I have to pick someone other than the Packers, and you went Bears.
No, I didn't. Honestly, I didn't even truly. I mean, I'm with you guys. It's the Packers, but I was trying to make a case. Could I make a case for a team like the Bears if they get Caleb and he's really good his rookie year?
What about the Eagles? What about the Eagles bouncing back? We talk about the Niners. I think the Niners are all going to say the word, but the way that the Eagles got Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio,
you're talking
coordinators.
We were talking NFC North.
NFC. My fault.
Did they change the
actually? You know what? Talk about the NFC.
That's my fault. But I think if we're talking outside the NFC North, I think the Philadelphia Eagles are without a doubt going to win the NFC East next year. I think Jalen Hurts bounces back in a big way. I think the top 3 teams in the NFC are going to be the 49ers, obviously. I don't think they're going to dip. The Lions and the Eagles. I think that those are going to be the top 3 teams. The Eagles and the Lions, they don't play in the regular season, do they? Because I know they play the Cowboys, but I don't think they play in the regular season. So I think that's the team, especially when you look at Jalen Carter ending his year 2. Jordan Davis, he kind of fell off this year. If he bounces back, especially if Fletcher Cox leaves, this is when the Eagles are starting to rely on their second wave of players, especially ones what they drafted recently. You're going to find out what the Philadelphia Eagles are all about. I think they have a good culture there, regardless of what people say about can't think of the head coach off the top of my head.
Nick Sirianni.
Nick
Nick
Sirianni.
Sirianni's come on, he's got a good culture.
Yeah, I think he's getting a little overhated right now. I think the Philadelphia Eagles are going to bounce back in a big way. I don't see the Dallas Cowboys winning that division again. The
You know what,
Commanders,
too?
fuck no. But they got their guys according to their social media posts today. They got their guys.
I think the Eagles are going to have a huge bounce back year. Like you said, Jalen Hurts, I think he's going to go back for an MVP season. A lot of people doubting him and the struggles they had in the offense and to end the year, really. But I think the players really rallied around Nick Sirianni towards the end of the year. You heard a lot of bad shit being said about him, but they were the first ones, like guys like Fletcher Cox, to stand up for him. So I do think the Eagles have a bounce back year, and they should not be slept on. Like, obviously, they had this bad stretch and they struggled a little bit, but there's no reason to sleep on the Eagles.
It is a lock that the Philadelphia Eagles win the NFC East next year. It is a dead lock. No team, I said this last week, no team has won it since 2004, back-to-back years.
Holy
Whoa,
fuck.
what?
Holy fuck.
What? Whoa.
Coach Walk.
Whoa.
No way.
Holy
Whoa.
fuck. Holy fuck.
Yo, what?
Coach Walk, you are
Cheers,
the
Coach
man.
Walk, man.
No.
What
Whatever
the
you
fuck
need,
is going on?
oh my
Bro,
God.
what?
Stop.
Shout out
Hey.
to Coach Walk, man.
What a
This is for
fucking
you, Coach Walk. Hey, I know he owns a bar, so this
I love
one,
Coach Walk, man.
it's for you. It's
Coach
for
Walk
you.
did say he knows a bar which he owns that we can do some live shows at. So
Oh,
shout out to
let's
Coach
go,
Walk,
man.
man.
That's
Wait.
insane. That's
Oh.
What a
insane.
legend.
Oh. All right.
That is
Holy
awesome.
fuck.
Oh, that is
Coach Walk,
awesome.
I don't think to just speak on this for a second.
What the?
I don't think you realize how much this helps us out with what we're trying to do
start.
right now in investing into ourselves. And the fact that you just did this, Coach Walk,
It's huge.
you are forever a crunch time legend.
Can we
And
give him
look,
a
it
wrench?
goes more than just the money.
Oh,
I understand you donated $500, which we obviously appreciate. But the fact that you're willing
Wow.
to sacrifice this out of your life and whatever you have going on, because everybody has problems, the fact that you're willing to sacrifice this for us, this means more than words can fucking, I don't know what to say, because
Yeah,
just
dude.
this is awesome. We didn't ask for this either. Thank you. Just thank you. Thank
I
you so much.
appreciate it so much, man.
That is unbelievable.
Unreal.
That is
So-
great. Shout out to
Unreal,
Coach Walk. Love
I'm
him.
trying to find the words.
Coach Walk, drop the name of your bar too, by the way, please.
Yeah, please, please, because Coach Walk, he's been supportive of us forever, and we love that man. We do so much, and $500 is unreal. Obviously, we're going to reinvest that into this and make this a better product for you guys. So, Coach Walk, God bless you. I mean,
think that's
seriously, that is unreal. I just gave a moderator too, so you
Yeah,
know
he
what?
deserves
Yeah.
that. And I
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
Jeff, like you said, that's the biggest thing. Is like we're gonna reinvest stuff like this. Like we have gotten donations to different things. Like we're trying to start this thing from the bottom up. And obviously, we all left somewhere where we were getting paid. So having donations, people become members. If you guys become members, all of that helps us out to reinvest in equipment and doing live shows and doing things to grow this, so we can kind of get that lift start up to kind of compete and go out there and dominate as well out in the city. So Coach Walk, that is an awesome person. He's supported all of us. Like I know the morning show months and months,
he used
years
to
back.
always
yeah.
tune in,
When I
man.
started Woodward Nights, he was like one of the first people there coming in and supporting, and whenever he had time to hop in. So he's been a great listener.
Dude, I'm not
I'm
even
in
trying
shock.
to be that guy. Like, dude, I'm kind of getting emotional. Like, this is that was
Yeah.
unreal.
That's why we love the people, man.
And
Like
That is
I just want to say something. When we get the merch outed or figued out and I get all that handled, I'm going to send you a care package, Coach Walk. Appreciate
you're-
it, man.
you're getting hooked
That's
up for sure,
insane.
man.
honestly, we might F around, just give Coach Walk like 50% of the company, dude. Like this dude, Coach Walk, that
He's a dog, man. That's so
Wow.
awesome.
And same thing, even when you guys donate, I know there was like a $1.99 donation earlier. Even when you guys donate that stuff, man, like it means the world. It lights us up because it knows, it just reassures us of what we're doing is we're making the right decision and betting on ourselves. So every time you guys do this, man, it doesn't have to be $500, which is crazy. If it's 99 cents, it's appreciated. And we're not
every time.
asking you guys to go out and just spend your money on us all the time, but we just want you to know that when you do, it means more than you guys realize. It's more than just money to us. It's belief, and it's
the breath-
jet fuel, baby. It's jet fuel.
it's
It's jet fuel.
It
Ooh,
truly
we're getting
is
some jet fuel. Let's go,
Yeah.
boys.
That's like a quarter tank of jet fuel right there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, especially after the week we've
That'll
had.
get you to
Everything
Tennessee.
so reassuring, man.
Yeah,
love you guys, the chat, Coach Walk, everyone, man. We appreciate everything, dude.
Shout
For
out.
real.
Biggin says Jeff Iafrate and Caleb Williams vibes crying. Yeah, maybe I seriously like that. That is that's incredible, man. That is absolutely incredible. I honestly,
Hey, shout out to a man that's worth way more than $500, JB Smooth.
JB Smooth, baby.
Shout out.
wow.
Shout out.
Thank you, Coach Walk. We appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
A ton,
Thank
man.
you. Thank
We
you.
appreciate you. A ton. Does
Man.
Coach Walk? Does he have a wrench now?
Yeah, he does.
Better.
Well
He
deserved.
does.
I just
Yeah.
want to
Hey,
make sure.
thank you, Coach Walk.
That's-
Seriously,
that's-
drop the name of your bar in the chat so we can visit it, and so the people in the chat, we can get the community going. We can have meetups at Coach Walk's bar. That'd be hype
yeah.
for sure.
I want a plastered Klotz there. We do. We need it. We do.
Coach Walk might not though.
Yeah, he
might
probably
not.
doesn't. Yeah, he probably doesn't. He'll have a ride home. Don't worry about it. All right. Well, I guess we'll move on. At least you'll try to. I mean, that is unreal, man. You just made my entire, not even just day, but week, maybe even life.
Week, month, just
that is
Hey, it just shows the support, man. It's awesome.
Yes, it does.
love
that
everyone in the chat.
To know that
Hey,
we had that. Let's go, boys.
Lorena, I know me and you every time we go at it. But Lorena, even the fact that you're showing up, supporting, even if you don't support what I say and you support the other fellas, that's fine. Lorena, I appreciate you being here. Thank
I
you.
think Lucas might be drunk right now.
Oh,
Yeah.
hey, I poured up
Like,
like 3 shots.
That man's been
Yeah.
going. I've never seen this man just go off.
Hey,
so
Modelo.
So to transition to try and keep the show back kind of on the tracks here, because we got Sean Murphy joining us in 10 minutes
Shout
here.
out.
And maybe we'll just save this because honestly, like we got 8 minutes here, and I'm like, I don't even know. I mean, we're just like, there's so much going on up here. You know what I mean? Like we're blessed, man. We're blessed to be doing what we love. Nolan Johnson says, "What's up, boys? Appreciate you,
Shout
Nolan."
out, Nolan.
That's another one. And ETN coming at your hair, Booner. Look,
Hey.
Get the shot.
Daily hair check.
Hey, we need the daily checkup.
There you
Wow,
go.
other side.
Other side. Yeah, there we go.
The mullets, and I have to get a cut this week. I think. I hope.
Hey, not cut, just cleaned up. You just need to clean
Yeah,
up.
I need
You
it
don't
cleaned up. I
to
need to
cut.
get the top trimmed a little
Yeah,
bit. The
just
back
cleaned
is
up.
getting really long, dude. I was at work today and I went to the bathroom. The back was long.
Lions Bear 222. Will you guys talk all sports on here? Just Lions centric. We'll talk all sports.
We're gonna go over everything.
We will.
baby.
I mean, look at the versatility we have right now. We have guys that know all sports, and we have I don't know, Michael Gentry right there. Look at his beautiful face. His beautiful
Prudential
hat.
Red Wings writer.
Covers the freaking Red Wings. So he's gonna have all Red Wings coverage on deck. Obviously, you guys know me. We all love Lions, but I love the Pistons, of course. Which when they win games, I'll actually start covering them.
Hey,
what's
if you
up,
guys
bro?
didn't know, I coached college basketball for 5 years too. So hey, we've got to. I know a little bit
Slide
about-
that in there.
If you guys want to know something about a real ball, I know Lucas is a ball number when it comes to football.
Hey, you got it.
If
You
we
got
played
it.
college
Basketball,
football,
Boone. You
I
got
am
it.
a ball. It's much. No one knows. Like I don't talk basketball a lot. I know the X's and O's of basketball. I coached it for 5 years.
I
at a high
can
level.
attest for Booner on that. I can attest for Booner on
Coached
that.
against Tom Izzo. I've coached against Juwan Howard, Chris Holt. Do you want me to keep going, boys? Like, come on here. Okay, I'm sorry.
Love
the
you.
All
resume,
right.
though. Love the
resume
resume.
Yeah.
resume.
Hey, but
good.
speaking of basketball, man, I know we got a man coming up to talk Pistons a little bit. So
Listen,
that'll
speaking
help
of
out.
basketball,
Look
did
at
you
this. Look at
guys
this
hear
beautiful
the drink
bastard.
pour?
Look at this beautiful bastard.
What up,
Yeah.
Sean Murphy.
Yeah.
Look at that, my
What
guy.
up, Sean?
What up, boys?
What
Sean.
up, Sean?
Long time listener, first time subscriber, or first time caller. Mother, this is what happens when you plan a joke and then you just fumble it at the 1 yard line. But anyway, thanks for having me, guys.
Hey,
Hey.
Sean, I want to say
Appreciate
number
it,
one, thank
Sean.
you for joining the program. You're obviously my guy. We do From Half Court for you guys to check that out from Half Court. We cover all Pistons on there as well. But Sean, there's a reason why we have you on, because you are a basketball savant, and the Pistons made some big moves today. Some big ones, some blockbuster moves. Monte Morris traded, and we acquired an Italian. which you have my attention. So
The
Sean,
Italian Stallions
So,
in
Sean,
Detroit now.
take it. Just your thoughts on some of the moves made today and the player they acquired, Simone Fettuccini, we'll call him. But go ahead.
Yeah, fettuccine rigatoni, I think is actually, just want to make sure we be proper. No, so yeah, obviously did the Pistons make any moves today that are going to alter the course of the franchise? No. Did they make
Not
any
even
moves
close.
did they make moves that are going to make you jump out of your seat? No. But they did address direct needs that they have. Because if you look at the Pistons, like what are things that the Pistons clearly need? They need wings, they need guys who can shoot, they need guys who can defend. And they did get that in today's trade. I mean, the player they did get from Utah is a solid, player. He played professionally in Italy, and this is actually only his second year in the league, but he shoots 39% from three. He could defend like really well in multiple positions. He was one of the bigger reasons as to why, Utah was able to start going on like the win streak that they were going. So, it's definitely like a solid player, and multiple contenders were actually, going after him. So like all things considered, the fact that they were able to get him, it's Simone Fontecchio. I will remember that name within a few days. I promise you. But for now, forgive me and give me grace. But on top of that, the trade I was a little bit more surprised with was sending Monte Morris to Minnesota. It's not surprising in the sense of there was reporting and we knew that Minnesota was interested in Monte Morris, even as far back as when he was already on the Wizards. But, obviously, there was the injury that kept him out, for as much of the season as he was. One of the bigger reasons as to why they were so bad for so long was they didn't have a guy who could steady the course for all intents and purposes. But now, you've seen Marcus Sasser step up and play pretty well. You've kind of had a log jam in that backcourt for all intents and purposes. So listen, I think it makes sense. And ultimately, I think the biggest part about the moves they made is it doesn't really restrain them in the long term. These are all players who are either on expiring contracts or who have team options. So in particular, Simone Fontecchio, like reportedly the Pistons intend to extend him, and he is a restricted free agent this summer. So they're in the driver's seat of what happens there. But at the same time, if he gets offer sheets and interest from around the league, that could potentially make him a little more expensive than Detroit's thinking. But ultimately, I expect him to be on the team, assuming he continues to shoot the way he does. And listen, they got better, and that's all you can really ask for. I also don't think they're done by any means.
Hey, can I ask a question real quick?
Absolutely, Booner.
Sean, I love you. I appreciate you. You came on my first podcast, which it was the podcast that I had while I was at Woodward Sports as well about a year ago that I was able to do.
Before they said
Rip.
Yeah, exactly. So you did come on that one, which was awesome. I appreciate you a ton as always. I had this question too, and I tweeted it out, and I know you're in the building sometimes with the Pistons. So if you can't answer that, I understand. But I tweeted this out, and I know the trade deadline. I like what Troy did when he's kind of getting these expiring deals and, gives you options when it comes to the cap space, all of that. Do you trust Troy Weaver, though, to kind of like, and this is the thing, like, do you trust him to be able to make these trades, give up assets? I mean, you give up, I think I saw today, correct me if I'm wrong, I think at least 2 second-round picks, kind of getting rid of assets, bringing new guys in, opening some cap space. And then when it comes down to it, now that if guys on expiring deals do leave, now you have this money. Do we even trust Troy Weaver to kind of spend that money? That's where I'm at with all of this going on right now with the Pistons. And I know kind of you are getting a little bit better, but kind of long-term wise, so where you don't get into another rebuild come 2 years down the line. And I've talked to Jeff about this a lot, but do we even trust Troy Weaver to kind of get these options and spend the money and kind of have full autonomy of everything that is going on right now? Because right now I'm kind of questioning that a little bit. That's just me though. But I am like a little bit like, hey, should he have full go on all of this?
Yeah, no, obviously I've been a public, like proponent of Troy Weaver, or, someone that was like a big believer, in his plan and the vision, and also like in the draft picks that he's made. But I think obviously when, you have a historic losing streak that the Pistons endured, when you go through what they've been through and you're year 4 in the rebuild, and if anything, you're at the lowest point, obviously you're going to be in a situation where it is fair to question the people who are in charge, the people who have the keys, and say, hey, are we sure this is the guy who wants to use that space? Having said that, I think if you look at all of the actual transactions and the moves that like Troy has made, I don't think there's like one that you can really point at that's like truly egregious. I mean, like obviously you can look at the Killian pick. That was the biggest, drafting mistake that he made. But otherwise, I would say most of the guys that he's drafted have played really well. There's definitely four guys, in Cade, Asar, Ivy, and Duran that could potentially be all-star caliber talents. On top of that, I think as far as like the biggest, like miss as far as like a trade or as far as like a veteran swing, you look at the Joe Harris acquisition, he's our biggest salary on the roster right now. It's $19 million. So, and they kind of brought him in, he was a career, like sniper from 3-point range, like one of the best 3-point shooters in the league, but just old, washed, like wasn't really in a position where he could contribute consistently. And obviously that, the gambles that Detroit took on the veterans, they had the worst possible scenario happen where one of them just straight up couldn't play as far as his ability anymore. And one of them straight up couldn't play because of injury. So I definitely think that, this is the put up or shut up time for Troy, like this off season. And, like this, we've actually talked about this on From Half Court this week, Jeff. But I think ultimately, the organization has talked a lot about, how important it is and how crucial it is that they're going to have this flexibility for the first time in a long time. And they're absolutely right that it is a great thing, that they have that. But ultimately, I know Adam just said I'm being too kind to Troy. This is where it just gets more to reality. It's what you do with it. It's time to put up or shut up. This is the most important like summer like of Troy's tenure. If they come out like this next season and in the first month, they have another start where they only have like 3-4 wins in like the first month, absolutely, there needs to be a hot seat, if not an outright change at that point. But at the same time, ultimately what was going to get the Pistons out of, the mess that they're in and what's going to get them to the next step is ultimately the players they drafted. It's the development of Jaden Ivey, of Cade Cunningham, of Jalen Duran, Asar Thompson. But they have to maximize that space that they have because, especially, when you're a team like Detroit, you aren't a free agency market. You kind of have to overpay for players. You have to make sure they're the right ones.
And Sean, thanks for joining us again. Really appreciate you.
Gentry,
Always been a fan
of course. You kidding me? Look at that smile right there.
Oh,
how do you not fall in love with that?
Yeah, how could you not love
it
it with the stash going too, Sean?
Exactly, man.
Like on there with DMG.
Oh man,
can't ever say no to a man with a good handlebar. You know what I mean?
Appreciate it. But you brought his name up, Jaden Ivey. He's kind of shown some flashes without Cade Cunningham in the lineup, and certainly with him in the lineup. Do you think that's a guy that's going to be a part of the team's future? And regarding the trade deadline that it ends tomorrow, who's like the number one guy that's been the phones have been ringing about for the Pistons? Is it like an Alec Burks? Is it an Isaiah Stewart?
That's right. Yeah, I would say Gentry.
Like who is it? Who's the hot commodity coming out of the Pistons right now?
Yeah, so I think to answer your question, the two guys that you're gonna like naturally look at if your teams right now are Alec Burks and Bojan Bogdanovic, just because of the consistency that they bring. They're two veterans who can shoot the lights out of a gym, that can come in and play like solid minutes, and on any contender would be a great fit. I know the Knicks in particular have apparently been in talks with the Pistons about potentially bringing Alec Burks back into the fold. I mean, he'd be a great fit for them alongside like Jalen Brunson and a lot of the players that they have. So definitely could foresee that. But on top of that, I mean, Bojan, we've seen, like, I know people like to give him a hard time because, he definitely shouldn't be like your first or second best player on a team. But like, this is a guy who can score 20 plus points a game and shoots 50% from the field, 40% from 3, and 90% from the free throw line. That's elite. Like, only a few players in the league can do that. So, definitely going to be someone that I would imagine that, Detroit's going to get calls about. And I think with the trades that they made today, I think they're in more of a position where they could part with one of those guys. So we'll be interested to see what they do. But on top of that, I mean, naturally, like Detroit's going to have to part with somebody because the way the trade set them up right now, they only have 16, like they actually have 16 guys on the roster. Also, Bubba, to answer your question, I am not blocked by Woodward yet. I checked that earlier because I was curious. But we'll see. I'm on the clock.
Give it time. Give it time.
I'm on the clock.
Yeah. Sean, your time's on the clock. But in my opinion, look, I'm not going to act like I'm the biggest Pistons fan here. I think the fellas in the chat have followed him more than I have. I still tune into him. But for me, a guy who wants to get in the Pistons, but just never really had the opportunities to, I think a big trade could help me pay more attention to the Pistons. Do you see a situation where Troy Weaver, obviously Zach LaVine just got his season ended. It looks like he's not returning. So Zach LaVine's off the table. But do you think Troy goes out there and gets kind of a big fish? Not exactly like the 5 stars of the world, but do you think he really goes out there and gets a legit dude for this team to help build around for the rest of the season and the future?
If he makes that type of swing, I don't think it's going to be until the summer, unless some deal just comes to his table that he just can't say no to. But I think you look at, like, first of all, just like the way the league is at right now, like there is more parity than there has ever been. Like there are more teams that are vying for the playoffs, that are vying for the play-in tournament. I mean, we saw a team from the play-in tournament make the finals last year. So there are more teams that are just flat out trying to be good than ever. So I just think when you look at the trade deadline, I think there will still be like bigger names that are dealt, but I just don't think you're going to see as many teams that are going to be looking to part with guys, right now. Now, when you're in the summer, after teams, get eliminated from the playoffs, or they get to a position where ultimately they, have to take a step back and say, all right, who are we? What are we going to do? I think that's a whole different thing. And I think for Detroit, especially, it gives you more time to, spend the rest of the season, because I know they're hesitant right now of giving up a guy like one of the 4, core players, which would be Ivy, Asar, Duran, and Cade. But I think once you get more, you get more time of those guys together, because remember, they just still haven't played a lot together. They just haven't had the opportunity to, between, just injuries and circumstances and all that stuff. But ultimately, once they can make more of that concrete decision, because I think that is the biggest thing. Like the biggest question they have to answer the rest of the season is, can Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham coexist, and can they win together? Because if they can, I think that is definitely something you can continue to build around. But ultimately, at the same time, I know you brought it up as Jaden Ivey being like a potential piece that they can move. I think he's the most realistic and most likely player of those 4 to be moved, just because of the potential stock that he has, but on top of that, just because of the fit. And I think, down the line, if that pairing doesn't work, Detroit will have to look at making that move and seeing if they can turn that into a wing, or like a power forward, or someone that can play in the pick and roll with Cade. Ultimately, I think that's going to be the story the rest of the season. Again, I could still see them going and making like a call on certain players. I know James Edwards III actually came out today and actually pretty much downright said that the Pistons are not interested in Miles Bridges, or at least he believes that they're not. But at the same time, I mean, with where Detroit's at, I would imagine they're going to be aggressive. And again, they still have one more player on the roster than they're allowed to have. So again, they're going to have to make a move.
Yeah, and Sean, I mean, we kind of talked about this on From Half Court too, in terms of like ideal trade targets, like realistic trade targets. And it seems like at this point, a guy like Tobias Harris is probably like the most likely, just because the fit, the price. Do you see that deal going down tomorrow? And is that a player that it's not a player I don't think that Pistons fans will be, sitting there going, or at least Pistons fans that have been disengaged, like, hey, let's tune into Pistons games now. But it is a step in the right direction, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Tobias Harris, I know people are going to look at him and say, well, it didn't work the last time he was in Detroit. Why would it work now? Well, to answer your question, it's one thing to have Tobias Harris when he's like when he's your number 1 scoring option alongside Andre Drummond and Reggie Jackson and Avery Bradley. It's another thing when you have Tobias Harris next to Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duran, and players who have that type of upside and actually have the potential to turn into all-stars, all-NBA type players. That was just not around him when he was in Detroit. And you look at the way that like his game has progressed, he's the closest you can get to like a Pascal Siakam type player, except if anything, I think he fits better with the Pistons than Pascal, because Tobias Harris is actually a really good shooter from beyond the arc. But ultimately, I do think Philly's, going to make moves. Brian Windhorst, the Mr. guy, he did come out and say that he expects Philly to make 1 to 3 trades. And I'm like, that's just a weird, ominous way to say you think they're going to make moves. But all right, I dig it. But ultimately, like at the same time, I think for, if Philly is still trying to contend this year, because it ultimately comes down to, can Joel Embiid come back from the knee injury that he sustained? I just think Tobias Harris, at least for this season, is too integral of what they're building. Now, in the summer, when Philly has a lot more cap space, when they're going to be more aggressive to try and get another superstar alongside Joel Embiid, I think that's a natural point where you can look in free agency and say, there's natural relationships there. Tobias, there's people in the, relationships in the front office, relationships in the city. And, I just think it makes a lot of sense. So ultimately, if Detroit were to make that move, they would also probably have to part with some talent. And so I don't see it happening tomorrow, but again, I do think he could be someone we see in the summer.
Good stuff, Sean. I know I see that comment asking, do you think Isaiah Stewart gets traded? I saw the report that the Pelicans are interested in a guy like Isaiah Stewart. Can you see him parting ways with him?
I definitely think that he is one of the, if you're looking at valuable assets Detroit has, he's probably one of the more likely ones that could get traded. When I think of Troy Weaver, if I know him, as well as I think of I think, which is not that well, but I've seen his moves over the last couple of years, right? I just think he would be very hesitant to part from a guy like him. But I mean, I will say this. I mean, you look at the teams that are interested in him. It's the Celtics, it's the Thunder, it's the Pelicans. It's all winning teams and teams that are contending. So if that tells you something, I don't know what does. But at the same time, I also just wonder, if that's a guy that might be not traded until the summer either, just because you look at how much value it has to the team right now. And I do think it is going to be important for Detroit to get over the 10-win hump and not end with the worst record in NBA history. Because again, that is another storyline as well. I know it's something people don't like to talk about, but it is an unfortunate reality.
Yeah, no, it that's how it is right now. It's unfortunate, but we're fortunate to have you joining us, Sean. Always.
Shout out.
Don't make me
shout out, Sean, baby.
Hey, we'll have Sean back. Of course, you can check us out from Half Court. Always providing Pistons content there. You can follow Sean on X at Sean Half Court, correct?
Yes, sir.
There you go. Appreciate you, Sean. We'll have you back soon. All right.
Appreciate you guys.
Appreciate you, Sean.
There you go. The great
Always
Sean
here for the
Murphy
wisdom.
taking care of the fellas for the Pistons.
Legend.
Of course, the
Hey.
trade deadline's tomorrow. So what's up?
I'm not the biggest Pistons fan. Like I said, I'm a supporter, but when we have Sean on, it's great to be informed and catch up with the Pistons. So he's a very valuable member of this programming. So thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Sean.
Yeah, always.
Shout out, Sean,
always.
Shout out.
I want to kind of get to the Anzalone stuff because that's where we wanted to get to it yesterday. We didn't have time, and I wanted to get to it eventually because Anzalone came out with a letter on Twitter, and it was a long one. I mean, he talked about a lot of things in the letter. Specifically, though, he did bring up, and I think this is what we're mainly going to discuss here, is him backing Dan Campbell. And I want to put this here on the screen. And this is Colton Pouncey that really took the screenshot and put it on X so we can view it. And he clipped, he took it for us so I don't have to dig through the entire letter. So shout out to Colton Pouncey for that. But here's the letter, and I'll read it. So this is how he started it. Dear Detroit, we were all behind Dan on the 4th down call. Let's get that out of the way first. If you could rewind time, we'd do it again. 100 times out of 100. The offense, the defense, everybody. If you have been following this team's journey for the last 3 years, then you know how we play football. You know the mentality that got us here. It was the right decision. And I'm not talking about the right decision for analytics or talk radio or whatever. It was the right call for us, especially in that moment. When you're in that situation, 20 games into an NFL season, it's not like a video game. You're not playing Madden. You had guys out there playing with bum ankles, guys playing with MCL sprains, guys taking nerve injections and Toradol, guys who could barely get out of bed that morning. It's a battle of wills at that point in the season. You're just running on pure belief and adrenaline. I feel like if you shy away from your identity in that moment, then you're betraying the very thing that got you there. And there's more, which I'll get to, but we'll just break down kind of like this specific quote. So essentially, Anzalone, 100%. He's talking. It seems like he's talking for the team. He backs and they back Dan Campbell's decision to go for it multiple times in the second half. I know he kicked the field goal, which he did mention is also that he's surprised they even kicked the field goal, which I'll get to in a second. But what are your guys' takeaways from just reading that letter there, or that segment, that paragraph from his letter?
I mean, for me personally, it's exactly what I've been thinking. It's like, you might not agree with the call. You might not think it's the best decision. Obviously, in that game, it was not the best decision because you can talk about it all you want, but Josh Reynolds on that 4th down, the 4th and 2, did not catch the ball. But the plays were there. The opportunities were there. The execution was not. But if you think that swayed the way that Dan Campbell, this roster, thinks about attacking this game, especially on 4th down when they believe that they can get it, then in my opinion, and I'm not saying in all situations, but you're being ignorant. If you've, to Anzo's point, if you have watched this team develop over the last 3 years, you've seen if it's a 4th and questionable where it's like, can you kick the field goal or can you go for it? If it's in question, Dan Campbell's going for it. He's going for the kill shot. He's going to impose the Detroit Lions' will on the other team. And that doesn't change in week 3 when you're playing the Atlanta Falcons, the Green Bay Packers, whoever it is. In week 3 and in the NFC Championship, this team keeps their identity. And that is what keeps them in games and big moments. So why would you switch it up in the biggest moment against arguably the best team in the NFC? The Lions are going to stick to their identity. And as much as you might not agree with the call, at least you can respect it and you can know what to expect going into those decisions. So were any of us surprised going into those decisions? No, because at the end of the day, you've seen it 300 times in the past 3 seasons. Do you agree with it? You don't have to, but that is what you should expect. That's what the players expect, and they expect to execute it. Going into next year, they realize they didn't execute it, and that's what cost them. So if you don't want to agree with it, that's fine, but that's what you should expect because that is what this team is going to do. Plain and simple.
Booner?
Yeah, I mean, exactly what Lucas said. I mean, Anzo said it literally. He says we've gone from year 1 to year 3 doing what we did because of what Dan Campbell's made those decisions. It sucks, yeah. Like you, and then we were on the show kind of after the NFC Championship game, and we're the ones that as well that are like, maybe you should have taken the points. But I mean, if those players are all backed in, like the reason they got to where they are is because of what they've done. You can't argue that. Like, you just can't argue it. Like, they got there because of them going for it on 4th downs. They went from, as exactly like Anzo said, 1-10 all the way to in the NFC Championship game because of them going on 4th down and being aggressive. And that's like the mentality. That's the culture. That is what they built. As much as it hurts, because when it doesn't work, especially in an NFC Championship game, it hurts you. But to Anzo's point, like if you get one of those 4th downs, you win the game, and it's a kill shot and it's over. And that's what they've been built on, and that's what the whole grit mentality is about. That's what biting the kneecaps is about. That's why this organization has turned around, is because they go for the kill shot. They don't play it safe every time, and they're going to do that. And I'm telling you what, too, and I back this full-heartedly. They're going to have a kill shot in the NFC Championship game in the future. They're going to get it. And they're going to have a kill shot in the Super Bowl one day. And they're going to get it. It's just, this is all part of the growing pains with the team. And to see a guy like Anzalone, who I've talked very, very high on when it comes to being a captain and a culture guy, to see him take a step out there on the Players Tribune or whatever it is and basically say what all the players are thinking. I respect that. And at that point, as a person in the media, you have to take a step back and be like, okay, now I see where they're all coming from, why they made that decision and what happened. So it's all gonna, like, that those drops, those 4th down that they didn't get, that's all a learning decision. It's gonna benefit the Lions. We saw it's gonna benefit you down the line.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think it's just like reassuring that this team always has that like one mindset decision, that they're always together on stuff like that. And it really speaks to how big of a leader Anzalone is and how big of a step he's taken in this locker room. Obviously, he had some struggles early on making tackles, stuff like that, but he had a phenomenal year this year and truly displayed what a leader and how much he really does mean to this defense. And I think it's just good that, like I said, they're all thinking as one. They all have one mindset. They all back each other. It's just a true family, what they're building in that locker room. And I'm glad the guys all stick up and supported Dan, because, I mean, sure, he's not going to come out and say anything about that, but deep down that means a hell of a lot to him, that his whole locker room is behind him, no matter the decision he does make. So, gotta love it.
So this is where I'm at with it. Okay. I have a lot of respect. The fact that Dan's players back him, And it speaks to really the human Dan Campbell is, that his players have his back, and they all believe in the message and what he wants to do, right? His aggressiveness. They call him Dan Gamble, but they back him, and I love that. But there's something that I do believe in, and I believe in adaptability. Like, right, like I believe in adapting to the situation you're currently in. Ironically enough, it's something we're doing right now. We're all adapting based on the circumstances. And it's not that I hate every time he goes for it on fourth down. It's really when he goes for it on fourth down that sometimes is a head scratcher. And I'll bring this up, and I want your guys' thoughts on this before we get to something else that Anzalone said. A big argument for why people are okay with Dan Campbell going for it. Yes, it's because people bring up it's who he is, right? The other thing is, well, when you're not as good of a football team as the opponent you're facing, it makes sense to take those types of chances, especially in those games you saw Josh Reynolds drop those two balls, which he should have had. I would argue what happens when the Lions get to a point where talent-wise, they're on par with these teams. Then that excuse, well, you're not as good as the 49ers, you have to take those types of chances. That excuse doesn't work. You guys see where I'm coming from that perspective.
Yeah,
where
absolutely.
The talent discrepancy argument won't be there forever. Like, you're eventually going to have a much, much better team than they currently do. And if a decision like that, and I'm speaking more in the second half, if that happens, your Lions fans are going to be like, hey, you are the better team and you lost. Why? And you look at these decisions under more of a microscope. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. I mean, going into the NFC Championship game, people were saying, yes, the Lions, they have the formula if they can get up on the 49ers to beat them, but at the upper end talent, the 49ers, they have it. But going into the future, we talked about it already on the show. The 49ers, they are almost at their peak. If not, they are at their peak. With age, with Christian McCaffrey being a running back and how he was healthy for all 17 games, you can't count on that. You can't count on Trent Williams getting better at this point because he's already at his prime. And you could say the same thing with a couple other players around the team. Deebo Samuel, he's already dealing with injuries. At some point, that is going to add up. With the Detroit Lions, they're organically, their best players are second and third year rookie players. They're going to get better. When you look around the Philadelphia Eagles, the Dallas Cowboys, the 49ers, you can keep going on. They're in a lot different situation, and a lot of those good players are under big contracts. You look at the Lions, they're good players. They're on rookie contracts. It's completely different.
What about you guys, Booner and Mike? What, just for me saying that, right? I mean, the argument I made. Does it make sense?
Booner?
Yeah, no, it makes complete sense. I mean, it's the other side. I mean, it's just the other side of the argument. And I was on that point last week as well. After the game happened, was depending on that situation. You've been talking about this for a while, Jeff. It's like, depending on situations, you have to be able to adapt and know like when the time and the place, and it's just kind of a feel for the game. But like, yeah, I kind of get that. Where if you don't have the better players, obviously you're going to take those chances, but eventually you're going to have better players, and you can't have Dan Campbell making those decisions. But I was on that side of it a week ago. But when you just see a guy like Anzo come out and say like, this is who we are, and that's just I think it's something that they're like, even when they have the better players, at the end of the day, Jeff, you're probably going to have to live with it because Dan's not going to change. And especially after this just happened, and you have basically the whole team and Anzo coming out saying we were with that, and we were shocked that they kicked the field goal earlier in the game. Like, I just think it's something at this point we could go back and forth on it. I just think it's something you're going to have to deal with because Dan's going to be like that. That's the coach he is, and you're going to have the better players, which means you're probably going to be in better positions to get those fourth downs going forward, or you're going to have less of those because you're scoring more, or you're going to be able to get stops because you have better players. So I think it's going to help out eventually, but I just think it's something that Lions fans are going to have to deal with because I don't see Dan changing.
Yeah, and I don't want this to be even like I'm questioning his reputation as a coach. Like, he had those guys a 17-point lead as an underdog at half. So I'm not even going there. I'm just talking about situationally. Like, that's why I brought up the adaptability argument, because like going for it, there's teams that go for it. It's when you do it, which is super significant. It's momentum. It's, it's knowing you're on the road in a playoff environment against the I would say the best team in the NFC this year. Like that's what adaptability. But you kind of brought it up too, and I'm going to bring this up here. This was Anzalone commenting on that field goal they took at the end of the half when they were on like the 2-yard line, I believe it was. Something like that. But they chose to take the points instead of going for it. So Anzalone says here, on 4th down, in that situation, we're always going to go for the kill. That mentality took us from 0-10-1 to the NFC Championship game in just a few seasons. Honestly, if anything, when we decided to kick the field goal in the first half, I was more surprised then. And let me just say this, and I'll let you guys have the floor, because I think you may disagree with me. He says we're going for the kill. That mentality took us from 0-10-1 to where we are. Yes, but also because of Brad Holmes and his ability to identify talent. Like, let's not get that twisted. It's not because your aggressiveness got you to where you are. Yes, it helped, but let's be real, guys. Like, you had 3, I would count Brian Branch, amazing rookies this year. That helped. Jared Goff playing the way he played helped. Amon-Ra St. Brown, all-pro, helped. Like, Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, like some of the guys, like that. That's what matters. And again, like even to Adam's point, he brought this up. Like they took the points against the Rams.
Yep.
I mean, not really. That Laporta touchdown was on 4th and goal. Like, and you can say what you want. And Jeff, I'm not saying I disagree with you, but I can see what Anzo is saying. Yes, you're absolutely right. Brad Holmes drafted those players. Jared Goff playing at a high level, and all those things are cultivating. But what helped them get there, and obviously it's what cost them in the NFC Championship game, is relying on the players that they have in that locker room to make plays. And when you're in those situations in the biggest games, yes, they're under a bigger microscope, but I can respect the fact that the Detroit Lions stuck to their culture, stuck to their mentality, and they didn't pull a Baltimore Ravens, where the Baltimore Ravens led the league in rushing and ran the ball 6 times in the AFC Championship game. So, yes, I understand there's some discrepancies and there's some feelings attached to it, but I can respect that Dan is always going to be Dan. The Detroit Lions are always going to be the Detroit Lions and not going to sway, because at the end of the day, they're going to mess up early on, especially, but this one is going to be a learning moment, and this is going to be a moment that you can learn on how to build consistently, because you can say, yes, it's on the 4th down and 2, but why didn't we pick up that 1st down on the 3rd down? What did we do wrong there? This can teach a lot of players on the team how to avoid those situations and how to build on the situation so that these never happen. So I think Anzo is just preaching to the choir and the people that don't want to listen in the back that this is what the Detroit Lions are built on. And even if you don't agree with it, get used to it, because this is what the Lions culture is all about. And honestly, I'm all in on it, because I can completely buy in on being completely aggressive and wanting just to take the life out of your opponent. Because if they complete those 4th down against the 49ers, they have no life.
I think that's fair. I do. I mean, even this comment, John brings up, no coach is perfect, and more times than not, fans bitch because their team doesn't go for it enough. I'm glad to not have that problem, and we'll take the bad with the good. And the reason why I brought it up, and I know Boone and Mike, you guys kind of agreed with the point I initially brought up when I brought up the Anzalone letter, is there will be a point, and we talked about this. Remember, we got into a little tiff yesterday about how I said next year the expectations significantly rise, and we're not going to just accept a playoff win. Like, we're expecting a playoff run, even a Super Bowl run. When the expectations rise, these decisions are more under a microscope. Like this year, they made it to the NFC Championship game, doing it that way, being aggressive, and maybe that's the recipe. I'm not the one to say it isn't, but I can question next year if you do fall short and a decision is made that doesn't go well. Like, it is going to be brought up. It is, and it's going to be something that people talk about during the offseason, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I'm in a blender right now, to be honest with this. I can't. I'm just like, a week ago, I was like, take the points, like 3 possession, like Adam put in the 3 possession game. You make it 3 possessions. It puts you over the top there. If you get a field goal, you probably win the football game, to be honest, because it puts some pressure on them. Anzo comes out with this, and I'm like, okay, like I understand now kind of where they're coming from. So I don't know. I'm in a blender with this. I don't know what's. I don't know. I don't know what. I don't know.
I don't really.
Here.
I don't agree with it like that. It's the whole reason you got there. Obviously, the aggressiveness played the part, but like Jeff said, it's got to be the pieces that have been added to this team that have fit so perfectly. And obviously, when you find an identity, even if it is being as aggressive as Dan has been, you kind of stick to it if it's working. And honestly, when he first started, it really wasn't working. And a lot of people were questioning him. But once I found that niche and it did start working, I don't think there was a reason for it to change up. But to say that it was the reason why they turned around from 0-10-1, I think that's a bit ridiculous. It's got to be some of the talent that's been added over time and just the team really coming together and fitting and molding so well together.
And I want to address this too. Shout out to Jordan Schaefer, by the way. Appreciate you for tuning in. Your presence is much appreciated. Jeff Iafrate realizing hindsight is 20/20. Because I it's not just Jordan. I've seen comments like that, and it does frustrate me when people say if they would have made it, you'd be cool with it, and if they don't, you have a problem with it. I decide before the play happens if I like it or don't, and I stand by it. If they convert it and they go to the Super Bowl, I still would have came out and been like, guys, like I know it worked, but man, that could have gone wrong very quickly. Like I still have the same opinion. So I want to just get that clear. It's not about hindsight. It's about what I believe, right? What I think is right and wrong, and maybe I'm wrong, but this is my opinion. So the hindsight stuff to me, I don't agree with that. I don't sit here and if it works, I go, guys, great decision. And if it doesn't, I'm like, bad decision. No, I decide before the plays even.
I'll say this too. Weeks ago, when we were on the other shows, and I remember Jeff, you and I had this conversation on a pregame show, maybe like a month ago, and it was weeks. I think it was going into the playoffs. It might have been the Vikings game. Me and you had a conversation about when it comes to the playoffs, taking the points, and when it comes to the playoffs, making the right decisions in the right games when it comes down to it. So the hindsight thing, I mean, I don't think like Jeff definitely doesn't switch up on that because I think him and I both had the same kind of feelings on that when we were heading into the playoffs, when we said, hey, when it comes down to it, and you have to have a feel for what the game is. If you take, and it was after the Dallas game that when we talked about that the goal line play at the 12
where they went for it after the Taylor Decker catch.
Yeah, so like when we had that conversation, and when we had that, it was like, hey, you have to have a feel for the game, and it's a kind of decision like that. And when like that was just kind of what it came down to in this 49ers game was you had to have a little bit of a feeling to where if you can go three possessions and put some pressure on the 49ers. Because at the end of the day, guess what? They took the momentum back, and you had a chance to slow the momentum down by kicking a field goal, and you just didn't do it. And it was 2 times. So that's where I think me and you had that conversation after the Dallas game on a pregame show. And we've been pretty set on that all postseason long. Even after the Rams game, when they did take field goals, we had that conversation as well. So I don't think it's anything to where it's hindsight. No, I think we've had the same mindset on it the whole time.
Yeah, and again, at the end of the day, like this is Dan Campbell. Like, I mean, you just have to accept it. Like he's going to be aggressive and get used to it. Like whether I like it at points or I don't like it, it quite frankly doesn't matter because it's just who Dan Campbell is. So, yeah, I wanted to bring that up. I thought it was interesting. I know Sheila came out with a letter as well, which we'll probably get to this week, and we'll go through that. I love Sheila. Shout out to her, man. She's
the real behind the scenes.
Yeah,
we give Brad and Dan Campbell as they should. I think Brad deserves the most credit out of everybody. Booner, we talked about, you can do a 51-49% argument on whoever you want, but in my opinion, Brad deserves the most credit. Dan gets a lot of credit. Sheila deserves a lot of credit behind the scenes.
Yeah, she's the real MVP. It's crazy what a well-ran organization can do. And now you're seeing it with the Detroit Lions. All right, let's get to some questions here. Travis will start us off. Hey, do you guys think Brad Holmes trades out of the first round? And if so, what position? Yeah, Nick Faber, man, I got to give credit to him. He brought this to our attention when he was on the show, which you can go back and check out. It was earlier this week. It was on Monday. And he brought up the idea, guys, don't be surprised if Brad trades out. I'm deciding because Brad's traded up in every draft. I don't know if it'll be in the first round or not. That's what I'm kind of contemplating on, if he trades up and gets somebody or he waits maybe in the second, third round and trades up. But I do think it's on the table for him to trade back. And if he does trade back and you go into the second round, maybe you do take an edge rusher, knowing kind of that maybe the class isn't as deep as people think. Maybe it's a corner, but it's one of those two.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Brad trades back into the second round, ideally, in my opinion, I hope he takes an interior offensive lineman with that first pick. Just because we get talking about the positional value, if you can get the guy in the second round for offensive lineman, you're set as far as replenishing the potential of Jonah Jackson leaving, the potential in a year or two of Frank Ragnow leaving, Graham Glasgow. You don't know what his future is. If you can get him in and secure that offensive front, I think that's exactly what this Lions team needs when you have a quarterback like Jared Goff.
You guys agree?
Yeah, for sure.
Trade back,
Next
baby.
question.
Get that
Yeah,
man
trade
some more
back.
assets.
Yeah, get more ammo. Fuck.
Get more Sam Laporta picks.
Eduardo Mailbag, how do we fix finishing third in drops on the year? Also, will Hollywood sign merch? I'll sign whatever you need, Eduardo. But how do we fix finishing third in drops on the year? That's more. I think that I don't know how you fix that. It's more focus. Like that's just execution. I think that's just the human element of the game. Like Josh Reynolds, reliable as it gets. He has 2 drops. I mean, what are you gonna do? Like what that game in terms of drops was insane. Never seen that many drops. Like, how do you? I mean, what are you gonna do?
The Detroit Lions were third in drops.
Yeah,
the whole season, the whole NFL.
Yeah, and they probably were because if you really think about it, I mean, the Lions' best wide receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown, was a third-year wide receiver. Jamison Williams, second-year wide receiver. Sam Laporta, rookie tight end. Jahmyr Gibbs, rookie running back. There's a lot of inexperience, and with time, those things are going to get sealed up, and they're going to get perfected, in my opinion, especially with the talent that they have.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of those drops like came in bunches. Like I feel like they really weren't consistent, and then like kind of towards the end of the year, you saw them in bunches, and like in the middle of the year, I feel like it's really weird to me that they were top 3. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, Bon J says shout out to Peyton and Jeff Daniels for breaking the curse. That is fair.
Shout out the boys.
Very fair. Ronan, the Ronan 99, appreciate you, brother. He says mailbag gut check time. Do you think the Lions trade up, stay put, or trade back?
Trade back.
And we're gonna probably have to make a whole segment on this because it is an interesting discussion. To be honest with you, I would say right now, this could change. I will say trade up.
Yeah,
that is my thought. That's my thought process right now. Where are you guys at?
I'm with you. I think what would I most likely prefer? I would say trade back so you can stack depth and just talent. But what do I think will actually happen if there's more likely between the two? I don't think Brad breaks character and he trades up and gets that bookend or interior defensive lineman to pair up with Hutch.
Yeah, honestly, I like Lucas said, stacking up the picks and kind of building depth in the second round. But for some reason, and I know this means nothing to Brad Holmes, but like I feel like he's making a first round pick in Detroit, even though it has no correlation to what he will do. But I think he's making that first round pick in Detroit. So maybe he does trade up, or maybe he stays put. Who knows? But he's making that first round pick.
I'm gonna go. He trades back.
You gonna trade back?
He trades back.
Yeah, I think he wants more assets. He doesn't have a ton this year. I think he wants more.
ETN mailbag. Who's your early pick for NFL MVP next year? My 2 leading candidates are Burrow and Stroud. I like that. I like those 2. Those are good ones.
Hey, ETN DM'd me and he was like, Lucas, I've been hearing way too much Joe Burrow slander. And I'm with you, man. The Joe Burrow slander has got extreme. There are people, including Easy, I love you to death, obviously, that were saying that Jake Browning, there's an argument that is Joe Burrow really that good because how good Jake Browning looks. Look, guys, think about where the Detroit Lions were when they were 3-13-1. The Cincinnati Bengals are the exact same way. I understand they added Jamar Chase, but they had a mid defense and a terrible O-line. Joe Burrow at this point, I think, is getting over-criticized. And Joe Burrow has, I would say, Burrow, Stroud, and you had to put Mahomes in there for early MVP case. Mahomes, for the rest of his career, should be in the MVP case.
I like Burrow and I like Jalen Hurts. Honestly, I don't know.
Wow.
That's a good one.
I haven't looked at the odds yet, and that will kind of like dictate, what I bet on him, obviously, whatnot. But I do like Jalen Hurts having a big bounce back year, and I mean, he was before that bad stretch of games, he was right up there for it this year. So if he can keep the consistency up and they do bounce back, I like Jalen Hurts.
I don't want to put my name behind an MVP yet.
You're going to say Josh Allen for sure,
No.
Booner. You have to. You have to say Josh Allen.
No, I have to look at the odds like Gentry said, but I'm not putting my name behind it. I like the Burrow Stroud thing, but I'm not gonna put my name behind a guy yet. I'll have a pick for next year. I'll have a pick.
I was thinking about there's some interesting ones. I really do like Burrow. I think that's a really good one. Just because of a bounce back, he could be. I mean, easily he could be comeback player of the year too.
That's a lock in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that easily. I think Stroud's another one, man. Like, big second year from him incoming. Joe says, Mailbag, how do you boys feel about getting a player like Mike Evans in free agency? I don't think it's happening. So that's my thing.
Booner, this is your dream, Booner.
I'm with Jeff. I don't think it happens, but it would be nice if it did happen.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
like it would
I
just
don't
be a
believe it
luxury.
either,
It's going
but-
to be a lot of money. You're already going to pay Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then you're going to have to pay Mike Evans too. So that's a lot of money on that side of the ball. And you're already a top 5 offense. I think. I mean, obviously, it's a luxury.
I mean, honestly, Brad, he's kind of making it seem like this off season is going to be different. And in the off seasons prior, they haven't got that big fish, that big name. So I'm with you guys. I don't think it's going to happen. But at the same time, I didn't think they were going to draft Jahmyr Gibbs at 12. I didn't think they were going to draft Jack Campbell at 18. I think there's a potential that Brad Holmes shocks everybody. Now, it might not be Mike Evans, but to what we've been talking about prior with the cornerback conversation with L'Jarius Sneed, some guy like that, I think there's a possibility that Brad goes out and spends those big dollars because he knows that this is the opening for the Super Bowl window. So if he went and spent out $27 million on Mike Evans, I'd be thrilled. I'd be surprised, but I think there's a potential that it happens.
And let me see here. Yeah. Sorry about I just shout out to Adam, by the way.
Shout out.
Thank you for that.
The OG.
Love you.
Let's see. Okay, Devin says Mailbag, where the Lions improve on holding leads next season, third quarter is terrible.
The third quarter.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I didn't copy that. That's been a thing.
I've heard that.
I saw that from JB.
That's a great one. Yeah. Like we said, I mean, holding leads. I mean, what helps is when you have a defense that can, I don't know, keep teams under 20 points. That would also be cool.
Yeah.
And I think they'll have a defense hopefully next year that can put you in better positions. But yeah, it's offensively. They just lay duds. I don't know. That's better. I mean, you go into the second half, you come out of the second half, they got to be better. Especially if, for example, like you defer, you get the ball coming back out of halftime, like you got to score, man. Like you just have to. It's what the 49ers did. Like they came out, they scored a field goal, and they just kept it rolling. So
I just think it comes down. The third quarter has been coaching at the end of the day.
Yeah,
it's you feel like you're really good in the first half. So I'm in my guess, Brad and them, they didn't want to make any adjustment or not Brad, Ben Johnson and AG, they just don't make as many adjustments as they should. Other teams make adjustments, and then you wait until after the third quarter to make those adjustments. You just can't do the same thing you did in the first half in the third quarter because those teams are going to adjust to it. And that's what it feels like this team's done all year long is like, hey, look, we're winning, so let's just keep doing what we're doing, fellas. And then obviously the team makes adjustments instead of you changing the game plan up. I just think it comes down to coaching. I would say players, but if it has as much as it's happened all year, you can't just go without the players for that.
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit like trying to be too cute and too fancy on that first drive coming out of like you seen in San Fran, like they were pounding the rock with Monty, and then they totally switched up the game plan. And like obviously, I'm pretty sure Gibbs, I think, started that first drive, and then I think you've seen one carry from Monty after that, the next one. So like it's just being a little too cute and trying too much. And I think you just need to stick to more of what works. Obviously, if you're so successful in the first half, they are going to make adjustments, but like you got to make adjustments to their adjustments. So it's like you kind of got to stick to what your strength is, running the ball, stuff like that, and then kind of venture out from there. So like one point, like I said, the 49ers game, you've seen it, and they were just trying to be a little too cute, but that might be it.
Yeah, I'm with you, Gentry. I think if there's one criticism, again, Ben Johnson is a great offensive coordinator, the best in the league. But if there's an area where you can say that he can be better at, it's in that third quarter. And I think to your point, he's been trying to get too cute. I think he tries to step out of his identity. You saw Chris Collinsworth against it was either the Buccaneers or the 49ers. They talked about, well, at this point, you expect the Detroit Lions, they should go and just run the ball. That's what's got him here. And then they came out of the formation and just empty 5 wide. That's what's got to be eliminated this season. If the Detroit Lions want to take that next step, I think Ben will realize that. And that's where they just lose their identity a little bit. If that third quarter gets corrected, they run the ball. And then that's the whole aggressiveness of Dan Campbell. You go for it on fourth down coming out of halftime. You step on the throats, you put up a touchdown, and game over. If they can do that, I think the ceiling is absolutely sky high for them.
By the way, I know I just want to say this to for Lisa. We do appreciate you joining, and we're very sorry to hear that, Lisa. So prayers and thoughts are with you, Lisa. And we appreciate you. We appreciate you for always tuning in. It's big time. I want to get we got a minute here. I want to get one more question. I know there's a couple questions we didn't get to. Whoever we missed, come back tomorrow, ask it again, and we'll get to you. Easy says Mailbag, does Duran hit 10 boards? Yes.
Yeah.
We'd like to think so.
I would
Who
like
they playing tonight, Jeff?
Kings. They're playing the
oh,
Kings.
Yeah.
Sack down, they're away. Yeah, because they got like a 5-game road stretch, don't they?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Prayers for Lisa too, because I know she mentioned something about like when that whole situation was going down. She was on the stream and mentioned something. So prayers for Lisa, man.
Yeah, that is, man. It's really unfortunate. I do real quick before we end. I just want to say, what a show! Like honestly, what a show! The vibes, the people supporting and yes, Coach Walk. I mean,
shout out Coach Walk, man.
Yeah,
Shout out.
It's Coach Walk. Obvious. I mean, just even besides the money, which we do appreciate, it's gonna help us speed this thing up a lot more. But it is the people tuning in, it is the likes, it is the subscribers, it is the support, it's following us on social media. Just entertaining people is what we do for a living. We're all best friends here, and we love to talk sports. We love to talk to people. So you guys make what we do even more fun, and without you guys, we'd be nothing. So thank you to everybody for tuning in. We appreciate you. We'll be live tomorrow, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Of course, content as always, 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. every single day. Lucas cooking with the reels, Booner and Lucas carrying us on socials, and Mike in the laboratory just cooking up graphics and doing everything he does best. So we got a great team. I wouldn't trade anybody for the world. We'll catch you guys tomorrow. Appreciate you guys so much, and have a good one.
Love the chat. Thank you.